Hey everybody, welcome back to Typography Tuesdays. It's nice to see you. I don't know if you could appreciate the lighting that's happening here. I got my lighting on today. Well, you guys, this is week 6. Week 6 for all you type participants. I'm glad you're coming along with us for the ride in this We Critique Your Type. A lot of submissions today. A lot of really interesting, really good work as well. I'm surprised. A lot of things that we didn't explore, and probably some ways that we didn't understand how to use rules and shapes. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to dive deep into this critique. Get prepared. It's going to be probably about 2 hours if we can help ourselves. Around 2 hours. So buckle up and fasten in. Now, as always, Milka Broukhim is here with me. And those of you guys that don't know her, here she is. Here's her lovely face. Hi, Milka. How are you?
Good, very good. Thank you for having me again as your guest speaker. I'm very honored.
Thank you very much. And we appreciate you being here to impart your wisdom and your design aesthetic and your wonderful, lovely energy. Now, many of you guys who are just maybe perhaps joining us today might not know who Milka is. Milka not only has a master's in design from Art Center, she's taught typography for over 15 years, which is a lot longer than I've been teaching it. So her insights are incredible, and just her energy, like I said before. But Milka's just not a teacher full-time. She's a professional designer, and she's worked at many places, including Snap. Oh, Snap. Milka, what'd you do at Snap?
Oh, wow. Snap. So the Snap, I was part of Snap from its infancy, or its grassroots startup. And I had the opportunity to work with the CEO, Evan Spiegel, closely in partnering up, doing a lot of corporate strategic initiatives and generating a lot of purpose-driven brand design campaign. One of the projects that I'm very, very proud of is designing the logo Snap Inc., which is the parent company for Snapchat, Spectacles, Bitmoji, and we designed this before the company went public, worth $20 billion.
Woo! All right, wow. So you worked on some things. And at one point, I think Evan was your student, right?
I know, teaching pays off. Yes.
Some of us, the rest of us are just in the salt mine, okay?
Yeah.
Just for lucky few.
See, friends, it's good to have Chris and I as your teachers. You never know.
Never know. No, if you guys enjoy the way that Milka is teaching, she's also available for corporate training and other things. Milka, how do people get in touch with you and find out more about what it is that you do?
Oh, thanks for asking. I'm just, can I first and foremost say thanks to everyone who's been reaching out to me, and my apology if I haven't responded back yet. People have been emailing me. They've been reaching out to me through LinkedIn, through Facebook, Milka Design, Milka Broukhim Design, my Instagram account. And I love being connected with everyone on Instagram account. Why? Because I get to see your work. And feel free to reach out to me if I can help you with any projects you have for personal training or tutoring.
Beautiful. So I think without further ado, let's jump into today's submissions. There's a lot for us to go over. Milka, I just want to cue you up in case you want to write on top of what I'm doing. Some people had expressed like, hey, Milka, maybe you can draw on top, and we're going to do that today. And hopefully we'll also have a few things that you have taken notes on as well. So you're going to see different perspectives. And I also want to warn you, look, typography, there are some rules, but we break the rules most of the time. And where we break the rules, we get into some subjective territory. I'm not saying Milka's always right, and I definitely know I'm not always right, but you're going to see a disagreement, and that's totally okay, because in those two spaces, between those two boundaries, maybe you'll find what you want, or you'll find another instructor, another person, a designer, who's going to give you their opinion, and you might gravitate towards that. And that's the beautiful thing about design. Many different flavors for many different folks. So let's get into it. I'm going to share my screen now. And where are you, screen? There we are, Adobe Illustrator. Okay. Now, in the comments, I'll see things like, why are you using Adobe Illustrator? Why shouldn't you be using or InDesign or Quark or one of those page layout programs? There's a very simple answer, because I'm good with Illustrator and I'm terrible at those other programs. Now, Milka, as you saw last week, she got into InDesign a little bit, and there's different things that you can do. There's strengths and advantages and disadvantages to the different programs you use, but use the program you got. If you have to use Word, use Word. Heaven help you, but you can use Word, you can use Excel, you can use whatever program that you have access to, because that's what it's about, using the tools and making the most of the situation. So we're gonna get into it now. I'm gonna start off with a banger. The banger is this: is that Kyle Daly submitted 3 layouts like everybody else, but his layouts were so intriguing, wildly different. I featured all 3. So I think this is a good place to start. So here's Kyle's work. Okay, let's take a look at this. So Milka, you want to
Right.
kick it off?
Okay, so you jumped to the middle. I had Kyle's work as one of the last pieces that I wanted to talk about. But let's do it. Should I share my screen with you? Because I already have some
Oh,
stuff
you already
that
marked it up?
I
So
already, I already done. Yeah.
you ready? I'll hit stop right now. Go ahead.
So let's see. Okay, so I can share my screen, and I'm going to do that right now. We'll go over here, share. And I had somebody else's work ready. Could we start with this one, actually?
We can do whatever you want. I wasn't gonna critique it, but go ahead.
This one was the easy one. And it's an easy and quick one, actually.
Okay.
Let me tell you what's easy and quick. When I saw this, I'm like, good job. Okay, so we've got, you know, a big strong bar here and a small strong bar here. You know, something is missing here, something very slightly missing here. And I went in there and I finessed with it. Sorry, folks, if I'm not doing it live with you, but I'll be happy to do the other ones live with you. But I went and finessed with it. And here, I figured, what if we put a square here, clean this area up, and then the typography, I noticed they're different sizes, different weights, and some of them are uppercase, which you have to have a reason if you're gonna use uppercase. Uppercase is important. Uppercase is more difficult to read. So if you're gonna use uppercase, use it for something that is very, very special, like maybe a word or 2, but not for like more than 5 words, I recommend. No more than 5 words, don't use uppercase for that. So I got rid of that. I got rid of the uppercase. And what did I do? Oh, I put the date over here. So this went over here, and then I kind of cleaned these up, made them same, I think same weight, which is the regular as this series. And I just moved things around a little bit. I brought this whole area down. So notice how your eye goes boom, boom, boom. I know that's your favorite, Chris.
It is my favorite.
So it's boom, boom, boom. Your eye goes in and out. There's more of a beautiful flow coming in and out of this one. So thank you, Chris, for letting me use this one first. Can I talk about the other one too?
Please, you have the screen and the mic.
Okay. I know you chose this one. Beautiful job. Beautiful. Really nice. And I don't know who did it. And again, it's not about you and me. It's about the work so we can learn from it, right? So what I really enjoyed about this is how the word design was cut off. We can still read it. Why? Because the shape and the form of lowercase is so distinguishable that we can tell what the letter is. If you see the other half, which is the legs, it's going to be more difficult to see who is who. It's like, imagine you have a series of people standing. If you see their faces, you can tell who they are. But if you see their feet, you're not sure who's who. So that's how it works with typography. So I thought to myself, I like what we did here. What if we pushed it and boom, cut the top part off and show the legs. Now, if you're showing the legs, you have to be careful because you can go so far down to be able to still see it. Because you know, this is, you might first go, what is that? I'm not sure if that's a the, but I think that once you figure that's a T, the jor I think is easy to read. And then also, let's see, what do I have in my layer? Let me put my layer over here. Let's see. Okay. So on my layer, what did I do? I made this open because I wanted to show you guys how far up and down we can go. So play with it. So if this is where it was before, Chris, by the way, how do you hide your your selections. What's the is it Command H? Command H.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Command H. Thank you. Oh, it came back. It's coming back. I don't know why. I have to hold on the Command key. If you, excuse me, you come and play with it. Is that good enough? That might be good enough, but that space bothered me. That space right here bothered me. So I came down, I came down, I came down. I said, ooh, not bad. This is good. This is good. So this is good enough to recognize that this is a THE. Do I want to push the edge of the envelope? Yes, let's see what happens. So how far did I go? I think I went this far down. So it's up to you. You decide which one you want to go with. Does this help everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't have my chat open. So I hope this is helping. All right, good. Should I continue or do you want to take turn?
No, go ahead.
Okay, moving on to the next one. Oops, I'm showing you the answers. Okay, here we go. Beautiful. This one was very exciting, and it has this beautiful in, out, in and out. The whole entire layout is active. And I wanted to ask this question. I wanted to find out how else can we push this for more. Don't forget that when you're designing anything, no matter how satisfied you are with it, you can still push it. You can still make it better. Better, maybe. But I'm not scared of, what's the word? Making it ugly. I think that's the key. If you're not afraid of making things ugly, you'll be surprised how you will discover new things. So what did I do? I came in here and I said, let's have a line party. Woohoo. All right, you might say, whoa, this is so much. But if you squint your eyes, I think we got more of a focal point and more of a strength happening here. The other thing is, how did I decide what kind of lines I want to have? The way I decided the width of the line is by going based on the width of the stroke or the height of the stroke. Like for instance here, I went based on the height of the stroke of the letter N. Here, let's see here, where else? Where else is a good example? Aha, here. This may not be a good example, but I have it somewhere else where I decide to go like the length, the width of the thickness of the line will be based on the stroke of the letter. So that's one way of deciding how thick your letters should be. Any thoughts and comments, Chris?
Yes, as you're working through this, I think when you're done, I want to talk about how to use rules and shapes a little bit more, kind of the ground rules, so to speak, how to use lines. And I like that you're not wholly just wrecking the layout, which is often what I do, which is I go in there, I tear it apart and do things. So I like that you're making small but significant modifications.
Thank you for mentioning that. And I wanted to honor the work because I wanted to make sure what is it that they have that then we can push it a little bit more. Yes. And I like how Chris deconstructs and reconstructs, but I rather make sure that the work is not deconstructed yet, but we're coming up with solutions based on what you already have. Shall I move on to the next one? Anybody has any question?
Great progress. Keep going.
Okay, I don't know why I can't see my chat. So folks, if you're having any...
You can't walk and chew gum at the same time. It's not possible. Just keep doing your demo. Don't worry about their chat.
All right, sweet. I just want to make sure we're on par. We're on the same page. Oh, again,
Yeah.
We're seeing the answers. All right, let's see. This was a good one. This was a good one. And I wanted to take advantage of the opportunity of playing the white reverse text. But before we go there, two things that is bothering me are these elements, this rectangle and this rectangle. Why? Because they are at the edge of the page. You might say, okay, Milka, it looks like as if there's more going outside the page. Yes, it's okay, it's fine. I don't have a problem with it, but it's also boxing the page as well. So let's see, I'm going to turn off Milka layer, and then I'm going to come over here. And what did I do is, first and foremost, I took this triangle and I narrowed it down so far so you can see that how the letters are bleeding to the background. I haven't seen much of that with people's work, but I encourage you to try that. It's really cool. And then let's have Milka's layer on. Oh, I guess it is on. And then in order to make everything clean, and again, yes, I kept the integrity of the piece, I came over here and put the line next to the Journal for Graphic Design. Why? Because the power of line is to bring attention to what you're trying to say. And if that is a title and that is something that needs to have a big power, boom, give it to it. And that's how you use lines. And of course, we had to have this little satellite so your eye goes in and out, and comes in and out. I hope that's helpful. I want to bring one more thing to the attention here, and that is I'm noticing the whole entire typography here is all uppercase. Again, take advantage of uppercase in certain places, not everywhere, because it's difficult to read uppercase than lowercase. Is this helpful?
Yes.
Chris, I'm going to pass this on to you, pass the torch on to you, because I think people are going to get bored from me talking. Let's make this more fun and have you. Do you want to add anything to this, Chris? Do you want to draw on this?
It could be kind of dangerous, but maybe I can. No, you know what? I have the files too, so I could work on it. Are you done with the ones that you wanted to talk about, or you still have a couple more you want to talk about?
Let's see. I have about, oh no, I have a good bunch. I have like about, I have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 go.
Okay, how about we do one or two more, and then we'll pass it back to me, and I'll talk about some rules and some guides to help people deal with shapes, because I can see people struggling with it, and then we'll go back to you to kind of we'll ping back and forth. Yeah.
Here's your favorite.
Oh wait, don't talk about that one.
Oh no. Okay.
Let me have a go at it.
Okay, you go at it first, and then we'll come back.
Okay, so go ahead and stop share, and I'll share my screen, and I'll talk a little bit. Okay.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, which is, thank you for having the control up.
Back to Illustrator. I'm sharing my screen now.
Back to Illustrator. Is that it?
Yeah.
Are we good?
That's all you have to do. So you can see I've got a big artboard today. So I want to. Whoa. What
sorry. My fault.
Okay.
Let's see. Do I go to this one?
Just stop sharing, please.
Stop sharing.
Yeah. I mean, I want you to share your thoughts.
Somebody stop me.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sharing now, right? Jonah?
Yeah.
We can see your screen now.
Okay. So I want to talk about this, and I saw a lot of designs and they felt very decorative. Like when we have new tools, we forget that we're supposed to be using these things to help the person read what's going on the screen. Remember what we had over here? The rules. Where are my rules? My rules are right here. I mean, we're in week 6. We're doing rules and shapes, basically lines and shapes. And I just want to remind everybody, like the 5 things. You want to have a clear focal point. You want to make sure the order of the elements that you have are the correct sequence. You want to create a little bit of surprise in there. And the general rule of thumb has been to create one trick, one surprise, not like 55 surprises, because it's too much. One theme, one idea, and then let everything else serve that one main idea. We want to look at negative space because the tendency is to crowd every square inch of the page that you have, or square centimeter. And we're seeing that a lot now. Now that you can add shapes that go beyond type, people are just filling in everything. And then we're right back to square one. Don't forget the lessons we learned from week 1, everybody. And then we'll get the details. Okay, remember, focal point, order, surprise, and negative space, and then get your details right. So when I look at this and I say, okay, well, what are the rules of and the functions of how you use lines and shapes? Well, here we go. 1, you can use them to draw emphasis. I'll highlight this so you guys can track with me, to emphasize certain things. And you can see how I just highlighted that basically put it, the type reversed out into a shape. And now that's where our eye goes, because that's the point of greatest contrast. Interestingly, you can use rules and shapes to group things together. I'm going to show you some examples, or you can use them to divide, to say, we're not related. She's not with me. I'm not with stupid, you know, or he's an idiot. Like we separate things, or we say, no, we're part of a big, happy family. We can use these same elements to push our eye away from something or to pull our eye towards something. Like it's all pointing at this one thing, or, hey, what about this thing over here? This is negative space. And I don't want to distract you with real information, but I think it needs a dot, it needs a dash or a line or something, and we can use it that way. So now, the first thing I did here was I just took in this issue, this copy that everybody's been working with. This is in Helvetica, and I believe this is like hairline. It's like really thin, or no, it's light. Okay, let me make sure. Yeah, it's all Helvetica now light. Okay, and so there's two groups here, and I told you before, proximity equals a relationship. They're close, okay, but then that's too close because they're not exactly the same. So we can use a line like this. So all I have to do is draw a line, a stroke, and say, hey, these two things are grouped by virtue of having one element that repeats the dimension of the box of text that we have. We can use lines like this. Two horizontal lines with a thicker stroke. I think this, let's see how thick this line is. I think this is like 8 point. So 2 8 points. And what I've done here is I've done two different things. By repeating elements, I say they kind of belong together. I reduce some of the negative space, but I anchor these two text boxes together. And by doing this part, by stretching it out, I make this paragraph, which is much shorter in width, much narrower in width than this. And I give them one unit of measure. So I'm taking two complex things and I'm making them one unit in that way. And here's a variation to that theme here, where I'm taking that same line, but I've just made it shorter to kind of anchor our eye there. These points of contrast right here tell our eye, like, look at this. This is important. And when you're done looking at that, look at this. And because it's a repetition of the same element, it groups them together. Now, this is where a line is used to separate things. So I have these two things, and I don't want you to confuse them because this is who we're featuring in this issue, but these are the two big things that we want to talk about. So I've added a dash or dotted line. Now, some of you guys may not know how to create a dotted line, so I'm going to show you really quickly. There's not a bunch of different dots here. So if you select this and you go into your strokes panel, you click on this, and I'm going to make this stroke 2 points. That's fine. I'm going to change the caps to round because if I don't, they'll be square lines or they'll be straight. Okay, so I want them to be rounded. And I'm going to click on this option here to change it to dash line. So you make the dash 0 points and then whatever the gap is. So if you want to let more air travel between these two elements, all you have to do is change the gap. And I could do it to 10. And that's what it looks like now. So at some point, they create different feelings. The tighter the lines are together, the less it feels like these two things can be together. And the more open they are, it kind of allows them to kind of connect through the negative space between the dots, if that makes sense. And at some point too, if you make these lines too thick, it takes on a whole different characteristic. You see that? Now I've noticed that my Illustrator is really sluggish right now because there's so many things on my artboard. It's a little bit out of control. So hopefully this whole thing won't crash. And here's another thing that you can do. Right here, I've broken the text now from 2 paragraphs, basically 2 groupings, into 1, 2, 3, 4. And sometimes Milka and I will say, hey, what about this white space down here? So I can take those 2 dashed lines and just repeat it down here and say, look, this whole thing is one big group, even though you can process it in separate chunks. All right. And now I'm going to go into more lines and rules. Okay. So here I'm going to take resonate, the title of the publication, the subtitle, the journal for graphic design in January, February. I'm going to show you how to use lines to group and to separate, how to draw emphasis to things. So the first one's really easy. All I'm going to do is take that text. I'm going to put it on one line across here. I'll zoom in so you guys can see this a little bit better. And I've just anchored everything on one horizontal line, which is this one. This allows me the freedom to put this text over here. So if I take this and I hide it, right? Now, the baseline right here, running across here, is what connects these two things. And we can see that. But to make it even stronger, all I have to do is bring that line. And now we don't have to make the reader work as hard to figure out the relationship between these two things. And I could do variations on this now. Now I'll take this, I'm gonna hide this. Once we review something, I'm gonna hide it. I can repeat the line and do one on the top and one on the bottom. I've changed it to be half. Like this is 4 points and this is 2 points in thickness. And the reason why I do that is I'm still obeying the law of contrast, where if you're going to use a different point size, we suggest that you double the point size or more. So instead of using 36 point type and 42 point type, we would say you use 36 and 72 point. So if I use two rules, don't make one 4 point and one 3.7 points. It doesn't make any sense. It'll look like a mistake. So it's half as thick as this line. What does this do? It creates a strong focal point at the top, and it says, hey, there's more down here, so keep going down. All right. All right, so we've looked at that. I'm going to hide that one. Here's another example. And the reason why I showed you this is because as I was scanning the different layouts, I saw like certain themes emerge, and people were designing in a very specific way, but they weren't using lines as tools to aid in communication and to guide the eye. So I just want to show you some very basic things to do with lines that are functional, not decorative. And we can get into decorative stuff as we progress here. Okay, so here, the same line exists, but this time it's including a little line going vertically, and this is a divider. So the bottom line anchors these two groups of information together, but this little vertical line says, this is the date. And this is kind of cool because over time, this could change to March, April. And now we know this is a variable that will change, but this is constant. This piece of information is constant, this is variable. So we're both grouping and dividing here.
Wow. These are such good lessons, Chris.
Okay.
And I might say that some of you might be saying, oh, I wish I had this lesson beforehand. In fact, it's good that you're having it afterwards. Why? Because you already got your hands dirty with typography, and now you can appreciate this more. So take your work from this week and go back and revise it and make it even better. You don't need Chris and I to make it better. You can do it better yourself.
Thank you for saying that. Okay. Yes, you're right. I could have this lecture, but I want you to try. In doing things, we learn. And then by repeating those lessons over and over, we aid in the recall and the ability to be able to use this in the future. So if I said this, you may or may not have tried it, but I also don't want to unnecessarily influence the designs that you're trying. Okay, let's look at this. So here we have basically two lines, one to anchor the two pieces of information, but one to draw emphasis, and they serve different functions there. And if you take a look at that, it kind of looks modern. It's kind of cool. So you're probably sitting there thinking, okay, everything that we can do with lines and shapes for these two pieces of information is done, but you would be mistaken, my friend, because we're going to keep going. I'm going to go over here. So here's another way to use now a shape. And this was asked in typography class when I was still a student at Art Center. What's the difference between a rule and a shape? Well, at a certain point, a line becomes so thick, we stop reading it as a line and we just call it a shape. And it's one of those things like I'll know it when I see it, because at a certain point you could say, and you could argue that's a shape, and I wouldn't be able to argue with you. So here, this big black box draws our eye towards Resonate, the Journal for Graphic Design. It gives it a lot of importance because of the maximum amount of ink and contrast that we're creating. And this tiny little bracket here says, yeah, but we're related. We know each other. We came to this party together.
Yet very organized. And that's the beauty of it.
It's kind of that Swiss modern kind of organizational thing that I really enjoy and like. And so I hope to introduce you to some of this visual language that you can incorporate in your design work.
Yeah, yeah, very powerful.
Okay, so here's another way. I don't love this one, but there are 3 vertical lines, repetition. Remember, it's all consonants and dissonance, repetition and contrast. And so these 3 things say, because this is only 1 story high and this is 2 stories high. Well, by doing this, we group these things together. These same principles apply to almost every kind of design. And the one that I could relate to most is architectural. You'll see that there's a little window or doorway to the right here, but it's still enclosed in this structure, and it's pretty cool. Okay, I made this one dotted just to show you it doesn't have to be filled in because they separate, but our eye can travel through the empty spaces. Here's another way of using a line to tie information together. So in this case, I made the date aligned vertically, centered, and I put a little dot there just through the stroke, right? So if you go to the stroke panel, it's right there. You can choose different arrows and doodads and fingers and all kinds of things, but chose a little circle. So that gives it a little visual weight and emphasis.
Nice.
I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna hide this. I'm gonna hide this. Okay. Here are 2 boxes that overlap. Earlier on during, I don't know which week it was, week 4, something like that, week 4 or 5, I talked about treating your typography like cut out pieces of paper. So in this case, I'm treating this like it's a piece of paper.
Mm.
So it has its own shape, and it can block things. It can intersect with things. It can be rotated. It can do lots of different things. But right now, I just offset that a little bit. So they're grouped, but separate again. Lots of things you can do here, and we can get really crazy. And I'll show you what I mean right now. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to type out 8. Let's just say, okay. Oh, my computer's sluggish. It's got to think about everything. So if I take this and then I put it on top, it creates another feeling. I wanted to show you that to you. And I put it behind, it creates a different feeling.
It creates depth.
Right? So there's a lot of things that you can do. So if I line that right there, let's just say that was a line. And now the E is impossible to read, but
Nice.
these are things that you guys can play with, and you should play with them to figure out what works and what doesn't work. Same two boxes this time, stacked one on top of each other, one inverse, and it creates yet another feeling. And generally speaking, I didn't do this, but if you want to repeat the measurement here, it should be the same. And then you offset it. And you're going to see this a lot in architecture. For example, imagine if this were the first story of the building, this is the second story of the building, and this is an empty space. So it's cantilevered over it. If we're looking at the elevation, looking at a building as if we're standing on the street looking at it. And you look at it and you'll say, oh, that's really cool and modern. All they did, they took shapes and they offset it. And you can see a lot of the modern buildings that are kind of skyscrapers. They'll take this and they'll offset it and they'll rotate each floor a little bit differently. And that creates a deck, a roof deck or something like that. It's pretty cool. If you look at some of the work from Ginsler, you'll see things like this. Same idea is being applied over and over again. All right.
Chris, would you put a class on that? I'd like to sign up for it.
What class might that be? Tell me the title.
The architecture class that you're talking about, architecture/typography. How do you incorporate? Yeah.
Yeah, believe it or not, I've actually designed buildings before, exteriors and interiors, based on the same principles that I'm sharing with you today. All right. And I've had the pleasure of working on many different design projects, not just 2-dimensional, but 3-dimensional. One of my clients actually hired us to design the facade of a building, and it was really cool to be able to do that.
Nice.
This is why I've said many times before, the secret, the skeleton key to all of design is learning proportions. And I don't know how else to do it, a better way to do it than to learn typography. I've used the same thing to design a floor plan for my office, to design furniture for my space, and to design buildings for clients, facades. Okay, it's not structural engineering, but yeah. The last one I wanted to show you here is an open box. So I just deleted the top of the box and put it here. And it kind of feels like it's balanced on this little thing, right? So it creates a different feeling, and you can keep layering. You can do different things with this. So if I fill this box with white, I'm going to do that right now. And I were to take a shape and do something like this, and I'm going to fill the shape with a pattern. Let's say I want to fill it with this kind of pattern and get rid of the stroke, and I'm sending it to the back there.
Very 1980s.
Yeah, this is the whole Memphis design style, right, Milka?
Yeah, April Greiman.
Well,
era, not April Greiman, but
yeah.
her era.
Yeah, she might call us later and say, how dare you?
Callard.
So I created this pattern, which I'm going to show you later. Let me fill it. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I mean here. So like little registration marks.
Oh, how awesome is that?
And then now we're cooking with gas, as they say. And there's cool little things that you can create, little dingbats, and we're going to get really experimental in a little bit, and I'm going to show you how to do that. But I wanted to talk about lines and rules. I'm sorry, rules and shapes, not lines and rules. They're the same thing. So here I've taken the masthead resonate. I've done the same thing. I've anchored it with a strong, like Milka would call this the spine, a strong baseline, something to anchor all these components together. And then I've cut it off. So we're seeing the head and not the feet. I love that analogy. And then the Journal for Graphic Design tucked underneath it, separated by a couple things, but also with this little vertical stroke that creates a T to say, like, we're done. There's no more information beyond this. Stop here. So our eye doesn't have to keep looking to the right. It's a strong stopping point and a way to kind of finish the design. So I hope you guys enjoyed understanding and looking at a couple of these lines. Maybe we'll open up to some questions to the people who are live with us right now, the 32 participants and whoever else is joining us live via YouTube. Maybe you guys have some questions, and then we'll get back into it. Anybody have a question?
Yeah, no particular questions here. We had a lot of comments here, but someone was really saying that as an architect, I could totally relate to how great that analogy was.
Yes, thank you very much. Because I drive by, I look at these buildings, like that's wonderful, and I'll stop, and I have two boys, a 16-year-old and a 14-year-old, and I'll say, hey, you see this building? You guys like this? Let me tell you what's really happening. If you imagine taking that and you move it over here, they would all be in alignment. And it's playing around with these proportions that create variations in architecture and in design. Okay, so our live participants have nothing that they want to ask or anything they want to clarify on? No?
See, we just put the question out there. Let's see. Yeah, we'll wait a couple minutes.
Okay, we'll see. I'm still sharing my screen here, so we can get into it. So Milka, should we get back into it with you?
Yeah, go back to that first, excuse me, clear my throat. Go back to the first one, please. Is that a good one?
This one here?
Yes, is that the one that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah. Okay, so Kyle Daly.
Yeah.
Kyle Daly. This is his work. So he's got 3 layouts.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, they're so weird and interesting
Yeah.
and different. And I want to explore this. I'm feeling like Kyle's getting a lot from this class because the progression in the work has been really nice.
I agree. And I really appreciate the different ways he approached designing this layout. That goes to show that he's really stretching his brain muscle, coming in from different perspectives. So awesome job, Kyle. I will go and share my, let's see.
Go ahead, stop sharing that.
Okay. So can I go share now? Okay.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to share my, well, I don't know, after what Chris showed us. I was having a good time with these design layouts, and I was thinking, let's have a line party. And my solutions, please don't look at them as like being something that has made it even better, but the solutions that I'm showing you is to show you that how you can go in there and take advantage of lines further to make it interesting. So yeah, let's see, turn off Milka. So here I came over here and I did add a lot of lines, and let's see. Some of the lines that I'm not sure about these two actually, but this was interesting. And no, not that one. It's not, sorry, it's not responding. There you go. That's interesting. If you just ignore the top part and the bottom part, and we're just gonna lock that up, lock that up, lock that up. And if we just zoom in into this section, that's kind of pretty cool, because what these lines do is they're bringing emphasis to the name of each designer. They're also acting as lines of text. So I saw this opportunity to bring these lines in here because the names were there, and I thought that would be cool. After looking at this, I knew that the top and the bottom was kind of imbalanced, and then we had the 0-4, which made the layout asymmetrical from symmetrical. And I kind of struggled with it, which you can kind of tell. I struggled to see how we can bring the whole page together. I'm not happy with it, but I do think it was a good opportunity to come and show you how you can bring lines next to names in margins.
Mm.
Do I have another one? Oh yeah, I have another one. Oops. Let's see, let's hide it. Let's go over here. This one was really cool. Very, very cool. But I was wondering if we have depth with size, bold, and lightness, why aren't we taking advantage of the lines in the same way, where we could create depth with big fat lines and then medium lines and very thin slither lines, right? So we're following the same principle of large, medium, small. And what if we come here and do bring that in? So I went ahead and created this big fat line. Now, how did I'm trying to figure out, I think the height of the line is equivalent to the height of the stroke. And that's how I figured it out. And I'm noticing this is not a good place. I don't like where this is. Why am I
You're
getting
saying
this?
the height of the line is the same height as the cap line of the letter form.
Correct.
Yeah.
So why am I not able to? Okay, the host has spotted. Okay. I don't know why. Okay, here we go. Interesting. I'm not able to manipulate it because I'm not in that. I don't know what's going on. But I see. Here's the thing. I didn't pay enough attention. Oops, daisy. I didn't pay enough attention. You see how this little guy sticking out? I would go ahead and cover it up even more. So we see I have thick line, medium, and thin, and super thin. And then this was really weird over here. So I thought, hey, let's have fun with it. What if we do this? What if we do bring some black boxes, just the way Chris explained to us, and have fun with the name? Can you read it? Not at the first read, but at the second read, it does read as the Journal for Graphic Design. And again, you got to be careful who your client is, who your audience is, and how should you design for the right appropriate client. In my experience, if I want to do something that is edgy, I make sure that I'm showing the client exactly what they're asking for. And I show them a couple of other variations, and then I show them the edgy ones. And you'd be surprised how the client might go, wow, I like the edgy. Let's bring some of that in.
Nice.
Thank you, Chris. Shall I continue? Let me see.
Yeah, you don't need to ask. You just keep going.
Okay.
Because every time you pause, I think she's done, and then I'm going to jump in, but I don't want to cut you
Okay.
off. So you just keep doing your thing.
This was cool, but there was no lies. And so much time and effort has been spent on this beautifully that I was like, oh no, we went back to square one, like a rubber band. We went back to where we were. It's like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to give you tough love, but you did such a beautiful job with this layout. And then you're like, I don't know where to put the, not you, Chris, but the designer, but they're thinking like, where am I going to put the type? Ah, there's some dead space here. Let me boom, boom, put it over here. Friends, please be mindful of where your text is going to go. Make sure there's some type of a relationship. How do you find a relationship? Like for instance here, you see, there's a relationship here, right? There's a grid line here. There's a grid line here. There's a grid line here. Do you see that? So find these axes to create grid lines. You also have these diagonal axes that you can come in and play around with it. Okay, this one, let's see, Milka. Let's see, here we go. So I really wanted to see everything in black and white, so I can make sure that we all know the principle of design. So I went in there and made this black, and I added some lines. Again, I don't care if it's going to be really, really, really bad, because it's when we do something really, really bad, we discover serendipity, and serendipity is one of your best friends. You want serendipity because then you discover, oh my God, I didn't know I could do that. In fact, with this one, this was serendipitous. As I was trying to put some box behind it, it was a beautiful serendipitous where things became edgy, and I'm like, I'm going to save it and I'm going to keep it. Okay, so this is, let's see. All right, correct me if I'm wrong, but this was an inspiration from Wolfgang, right? Weingart. Correct me if I'm wrong, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's mine, and yeah, it is.
Good, good. I'm so glad to see that you guys are taking inspiration from other leaders and other designers. That's a good thing. You tried it out. It's like putting your foot inside their shoe, right? When you tried their design out. Now what I like to see is, what would you do to make it your own? So when we see it, we don't go, ah, Wolfgang Weingart. By the way, you want to hear something very crazy? Chris, did you know that our teacher, Simon Johnson, his
Yes.
teacher was Wolfgang Weingart?
That would not surprise me.
So we are the grandchild of Wolfgang Weingart, and our students are the grandchildren. How crazy is that?
Great grandchildren then.
Yes,
Yeah.
Great grandchildren. Okay. So to be honest with you, this was another tough one. I saw this, and this one probably needs to break itself into sections. Like for instance, where I would get my inspiration is I would come over here, and let me just choose a different color. I'm just gonna, for the sake of it, I would come over here and use this area as one of my grids. Okay, that's one grid. So use that as a grid, and then have your typography within the height of that grid. Does that make sense? The other one would be maybe, where else? That seems to be one good grid that I would probably come over here and maybe repeat it, and so on and so forth. Does that make sense? So this way you have some kind of a grid. Whenever you feel like your work is not talking to one another, try to find some kind of a common denominator, whether it's terms of direction, whether it's terms of height, size, direction, as I mentioned that. Find that, and that's going to help you to bring the whole page together as a unit. Does that help? Okay, I think this was it. And then I'll move to the next one. Okay, this was a cool one. And as I was working on this last time, I'm like, oh man, I should do this live in front of everybody, because I'm like, somebody stop me. I'm having so much fun adding lines here and there. So I'm going to turn off Milka. Let's see. So I came over here and I cleaned it up a little bit. All right. In fact, this should be over here. I came here and cleaned it up a little bit. I like how the lines were hand drawn. I really liked it. I really did. And I thought this was a good layout, good design. And I was thinking, what else could we do to make this more powerful? So maybe we could come in here, go boom. Wake up, everyone. So it is up to you. This is more on the very subdued side, and this one is more on the powerful side. So if you're working with a client that is all about power and strength, why not put those lines there? And notice how I'm using the lines. The lines, like for instance here, I decided that the height of this line is going to be the height of the cap height of the text. I decided that the width of this text is going to be the height of the crossbar of the letter T. And I repeated that. And of course, this is resonating with that. Does this help everyone?
Yes.
Okay, and then here, this one, another cool one, very cool.
This one's super cool.
Very cool. This would be a good one to do it by hand. I just want to go in there and cut, paste, paste, paste. And I promised Chris that I'll do cutting and pasting, which is one of my forte. I love to get my hands dirty with typography in a good way. So maybe next week for experimental, Chris, I promise. So I came in here.
Do it before the type class is over. Almost there.
We gotta get people excited every week. Next week is going to be the best. Oh, I can't wait for next week. Next week is going to be so good. Now, sometimes we are so focused on other elements that we forget about the typography. So we're using 2 different sizes and 2 different weights. I really want to see everyone exercising their muscle using all these different weights and sizes, because you can experiment and make mistakes now. This is a safe space for everyone to make mistakes. And with all the respects, thousands and thousands of people on YouTube are going to see it and they're going to make comments on it. Just to scare you. All right, that was a joke, but it's true. Anyhow, make mistakes, because Chris and I can catch you. And what did I do? I had a ball. I'm like, who cares? Thousands and thousands of people are going to see this and they're going to make comments. I'm enjoying this. And I just went in there and I had line party.
Definitely a party there.
Yes, yes. Because if you don't have that in you, if you don't, then you're designing with limitations and hesitations. Again, I encourage you to design with your foot on the gas pedal, because when you design with the hesitation, it shows, right?
Yes.
All right, Chris, I think that was it, but then you didn't want me to talk about this one. Oops. Oh, there's one more.
You can talk about whatever you want.
Okay, so just so you know, I didn't go in there and choose because I liked it or I didn't like it. I chose the ones that my computer was able to read the font. I didn't have the font for all of them. So the ones that were turned into outline, I was able to work on them, but unfortunately I couldn't go in there and change the typeface. So it was a catch-22. This is the beauty of working in design. In InDesign, you can include the type in there as you package it. But this is fine. I'm totally happy to work this way. This one was screenshot, actually. I cheated here. And I wasn't going to screenshot all of it, but I went in there and I thought to myself, okay, let's see. What if we come here and what do we see here? I see this yin yang yo, yin yang yo. You know, they're just like boop, 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 boop. What was that game, Chris? It was during our time when we were teenagers. You would go play on. It was before. It was right around the Pac-Man.
Pong?
Pong? Was it Pong? Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm playing Pong here. Thank you, Mark. I feel like I'm playing Pong. Yes, it's like bing, 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 bing. And I'm like, oh, ha, 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 ha. Okay. Meaning like I'm overwhelmed. So what did I do? Let's see. All right, before I show you, what did I do? I went in there and maybe I went ahead and cleaned a few things up. And let me make this long. All right, I made this, I went ahead and then I got rid of those lines. And I went ahead and made resonate even stronger by adding a nice brick size of a line underneath it. Do I like the whole layout together? Not really, but I'm just trying to put a band-aid fixing parts of it. So this is really exciting how these lines are continuing with what the text is saying. This line is giving strength to resonate. This line is bringing attention to what the feature is. Did I do one more? Oh yeah, I did one more. So I honestly, I was having a line party, and let's see if I can go in here and do some lines.
That would be the nerdiest party on the planet.
Yeah, don't be
my line party.
It's you never know, because you might have a client who might come and say, hey, I need something like this, and you're like, haha, I have it. I got it. The way I did these lines is all by relationship. It's just, and I'm just doing this live in front of you because I want you to see how I was doing them. Because I thought this one was a good one to show it for you. And I let them speak to me. I really do. It's like, this is not talking to me. This is saying, ouch, it hurts. Visually speaking. This is in and out. Maybe we need something here. Anyway.
Ooh.
You like that?
Yeah.
This is the first time Chris is saying ooh to my work. I'm honored.
I'm Asian. We don't make the sound effects. It's just not that expressive. I'm sorry.
That was a happy accident. Anyway, I can come over here and, you know, let's see, cancel. Let's see, Command Z. No. Again, it's you can have a blast. You already did the design, so come over here and just have fun with this. Where else do I want to go? Maybe I want to go over here, and maybe now I want to bring this.
Somebody's making a joke in the YouTube comments like, did Milka design the Adidas logo?
Oh, is that what it looks like? Adidas logo?
You know,
I wish. I don't know who did it, but anyhow, okay.
you're
Sorry,
not that old.
my computer is not responding to me properly. I don't know why. I don't know. Okay. Okay, let's see. Here we go. I see. No, there you go. Grab, click and drag. There you go. All right, let's see.
Okay, so while you're figuring out your computer, I want to answer some questions that are popping up on YouTube right now. They're like, well, who is Milka? How do we see her work? We're going to include Milka's work or a link to her work inside the description, you guys. You know, we actually do make an effort to do this. So a lot of people will ask questions like just like that. All I have to tell you is check the description below. Milka Broukhim is a friend of mine. She's an Art Center alum, a master's degree. So she's more learned than I am for sure. She's been teaching typography for over 15 years as a professional practicing designer, former design lead creative director at Snap.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. So
who's this amazing person? No, I'm just kidding.
wait, it's your husband.
Hey, anyway, okay. Thank you, Chris, for that introduction, and thank you everyone for inquiring. And I appreciate everyone's reach out, and I apologize if I haven't answered everyone, but I intend to do so. Okay, moving forward, this was a good one. Yay, nice and clean, and it's begging for lines. But then at the same time, I was like, isn't this the week where you do lines? So where are the lines? Am I missing lines anywhere? And so I'm like, okay, let's go, let's rebel. So I drew a line over the text. Is that okay? Is it okay to draw a line over the text?
Of course it's okay.
You can read it. Why not?
Oh.
You can make such powerful statement with doing so. For instance, I'm trying to figure out, I think I was designing something about sustainability, and I came across a design where they were talking about a lot of things that are happening on our planet Earth, and they were drawing all these black lines across it. Like, no, we don't want to do that. No, we don't want to do that. And I was like, wow, there you go. There's the power of line to communicate a powerful concept. Chris, oh, I did another one, did I? Yeah, there you go.
You know what I love about your critiques? It's like you surprise yourself. It's like, wait, oh, I got another one. Who's designing for you, Milka?
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
Is there another person that's doing your design for you? Because it seems that you're quite surprised.
I was doing this last night. Yes, no, it's when you're having fun, you get into the zone. And that's so awesome. So anyway, I have to thank you all. Thank you all for this opportunity, honestly. And I'm doing this right now as we speak, if it's okay. I'm like, oh, that needs a line. Oh, that needs a line. And then you step back and you look at it. Does it talk to me? Something's missing. Okay, there's something, a line is missing over there. It's basically a conversation between you and the layout. So you see how everything feels very snuggled. It's like if Mo has a baby, and Mo may relate to this, it's like cradling your baby with these lines. And that's what we're doing. We're cradling it, and they're feeling good and snuggled. I think that's it.
Okay. Good job. Yay. Okay, you know, I was going to say something that I notice a lot of students who graduate from Cal Arts get into really deconstructed and expressive typography. And most of us that came from Art Center are using type in more functional ways. And so there's no one right way to do this. And if you have clients or work that warrant something that's more expressive, like what Milka's doing, then please do that. And if not, let's get to functional type, which I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about functional type.
Yes.
Okay?
Awesome.
So, do you mind if I take over again? So if you can stop your screen share, please.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you again for this opportunity. I really enjoyed it.
All right. Back to Adobe Illustrator here. All right. So Milka always has these wonderful, colorful expressions that I just really, really enjoy. Cradling the baby and all that kind of stuff. Okay. So I do, it seems a disproportionate amount of time being spent on Kyle's work, and that's okay.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know. I apologize. I didn't mean to be
That's
lopsided.
I'm going to spend more time on it actually, because I think there are things here that we need to look at, examine, and to learn. So forget that it's Kyle, forget it's Bob or Mary's work. It doesn't really matter whose work it is to understand what's working well.
Yes.
Okay, a couple of things here. I'm going to get into this. Now, Kyle's using the negative space or that sitting above the X height of these words here, and he's putting his type in there. I get that. But it's also kind of creating some unusual organization and pairing. I think it would just, for me personally, it would just work better if he just put them all to the left and right there. And I would have just done that. Okay. So it's one thing I would have done. The other thing here is, how are we using lines here? We're not necessarily using them to anger in the way that I just previously shown you. What I would suggest is for Kyle, who I know is live right now with us, or it was, I don't know if he still is, but I would just try to make him thicker and see what happens. Okay. So if I go to the properties panel and make him like, let's try 8 points and see how it feels. Like, does this, what is going on here? Come on, computer, move. Okay, it's getting pretty heavy on my computer right now. So like, does that really draw our eye towards the bottom? Is the bottom important? Is it not important? I don't know. But I also know that there's just too much black space. I have to lock this here. There's too much black space below here. And I don't think we need all that black space. So this could be like a nice way to design a footer at the bottom of a poster. And I feel like there's a lot of negative space on the top too, which I'm not sure that we need. And it feels even to me. So if I draw a red box or something like this, let me fill this. Ooh, I'm not used to my computer like clocking in like this. Okay. I accidentally created like some even space there, right? You can see more or less it's kind of even. And so what we do is we kind of just play around with the ratios and the proportion of the negative space. What if we took this and moved it up north? It doesn't have to be even. And then I wonder like why this is also separated in two lines. So here's the thing that is happening here. We're repeating the column width of these two groups here, this one and this one. And so we're saying to the reader, this is one group, which I need to make more visible so you guys can see it. And this is another group, but that's not the case. It's not the case, I don't think. So really, these two things should just be joined together because this is literally the group. Resonate, the Journal for Graphic Design, excuse me, and then April, May 2020, that's the other bit. And then we also have to pay attention to how far away things are from the line itself. So we have a shape in here that feels too big for the size of the text that's above and below it. So what I want to do is move it closer because it strengthens the relationship. Remember, proximity translates to relationship. So I want to move it down a little bit more. That's too much. Maybe one day Apple will sponsor us and send us a $30,000 Apple computer so I can do this and it won't be sluggish at all. So there's still some issues here. And I think it's probably just the thickness of the line. But what I'm going to do is encourage Kyle to think about using lines as functional and less as decorative in his future explorations. Okay. A couple other things I'd probably do is make these things. I'm not going to do it now. I can do it, I guess. Hold on. I'll make it a little bit smaller to give his design some room to breathe. It doesn't need to be that big and heavy. Remember, we want to let our eye float. Let me do this. We want our eye to float around and explore, like, what's this all about? And then come back and do these things. And it's harder to do that when everything's so big. I don't think I've improved the design here at all. I think I've broken it, but I wanted to show you or get you at least thinking about these things. The other thing is I don't think this should be lined up with that because there's no relationship there. So I'm going to justify this right or flush right. Some people don't like that term, justify right. And we got to continue working on it, okay? I'm not saying this is a better design. I think I made it worse in some degrees, but I want you to start thinking about lines in functional ways to group information, to separate things out and keep going down that path. I love this design. I've seen these things done before. I'm not here to critique you on like what it looks like because that's the first thing that people do is like, oh, it reminds me of this. and they totally dismiss what you're doing and what you're trying. And everybody is this way. You mimic what other people do to learn it, and then it becomes a part of your design vocabulary. And over time, through your own lens, it mutates into becoming part of your own personal style. What Kyle's done here is he's created extra elements. So if I go to command preview this, you'll see that he's drawn all the handles and the bounding boxes to this, and it creates another visual element. And this is kind of very interesting because I suspect perhaps when he was drawing this, he did this and he previewed it and he saw something. He's like, hey, the grid lines are there, so why don't I make the grid lines visible? And so here he is, he's doing it. It's pretty cool.
Good job. Good job.
And this works because the underlying elements work. If the underlying elements did not work and they were not well placed, then we would have this problem. I do feel like it's a little even between these pieces of information, like this space and this space here feels a little bit too even for me. And so hopefully I will just, won't accidentally destroy this layout again. Is this an element? Go ahead, Milka, you're going to say something?
I was going to say that I like how we're seeing the skeleton behind the layout. I'm very much enjoying it, and it's grouping it beautifully.
Yeah.
Categorizing it beautifully.
I'm going to lock this so I can hopefully start moving these elements around.
I'm curious, this is a psychological question. I'm curious, those of us who are very, very tidy and who are very, very, very structured, if they found this assignment a little bit easier, I'm just curious. Don't feel no pressure to respond, but if you're one of those people who really like things in a certain way, organized, because that's what line is. Line is to bring organization to your structure.
I want to point out something else here, the use of circles. And he's doing something very dynamic. This is in the flavor of Joseph Mila Broukhim, and I think he's done a really good job. He started out with a really big circle here. And if you connect the center point of each circle and you draw it to here, which is in part of the lecture, and then you connect it here, you can see what's happening here. And if you use the golden ratio of 1.618 and you scale it down like that, or 0.618, you're going to get something really cool happening. And I think that's pretty cool what he's doing too. So good job.
Nice job. Nice job. Yay. So beautiful to see the growth.
Yeah, Milka's already talked about this. I'm going to make some small changes. I haven't done this before, so this may or may not work for us. Okay. These are, Milka told me prior to us coming on air a couple days ago that she enjoys watching the design take place in real time versus like the Easy Bake Oven where you turn around and the pizza's already made, so that you guys can see some of the design decisions and the push and pull that's happening. Okay. My main critique of this is Kyle's using the lines to divide the space on the page and making shards, fragments, like it's broken. Like if this were a stained glass window, this is what this would look like. But I think lines could be used for other things and not just purely decorative or repeating elements we already see on the page. So one of the things I want to try is to move this here away so that things don't go all the way off the edge. I want to open up some of the space and see how it feels. And you guys can tell me later if you like it or you think it sucks. So what's happening here is just like typography. I don't want things bleeding off the edges all the time. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, because our eye is able to complete the line and the movement versus just chopping off the space and closing down the space. So just like type, if I were to take this line and break it so it's continuing on, and we've done this many times before. We've done this many times before in past crits. Let me drink this water here.
Chris, while you're taking a water, I'm curious to know, how do we feel about this triangle touching the edge of the paper? Because to me, that brings attention. And I'm remembering the design the revisions that I did. I opened that up, I moved it around, so it looks like there's more happening to the outside of the page.
So well, for whatever reason, I lose my voice during these things and funky things happen to my throat, but we're going to persevere. I hope you guys can just bear with the graveliness of my voice here. I think what Milka did, which was to take one of these lines and make it thicker, gave it a lot of visual emphasis and it made it more interesting. So we want to vary the line weights just like we vary the typeface weights. It's the same idea. So I'm gonna go in here and make this. And generally speaking, the default setting is terrible. And the 1 point default setting of the line weight is not good. Okay. So I don't love this part. So I'm gonna make this now a solid line, remove the dash part of it and make it maybe make it just 3 points and see what happens. And there's
I
other
like
things
that.
you can do. Since Milka's already worked on this, I don't think I've made this a whole lot better here. I just wanted to show you guys that don't be afraid to leave some space for the design to work through the page. So don't cut off the whole page if you don't have to.
Can I give a kudo to this layout? One more kudo is I really like the scalene triangle. And scaling, we have 3 different types of triangles. We have equilateral triangle where all the sides are equal, and that's a good symmetrical triangle. And we have isosceles where you have only 2 sides that are equal. And then we have the scalene triangle where none of the sides are equal. And there's a scalene triangle that's happening here. And scaling is exciting. Why? Because none of the sides are equal to one another. They're all different. You got that small, medium, long length in there. So take advantage of that and maybe use that as one of your, perhaps as one of your grid, underlying grid for your design layout.
I like that Milka's taking us back to a geometry class here.
Mm.
Right? Is that geometry?
Yes, it pays off too.
It pays off.
High school geometry paid off.
It pays off to pay attention, huh? Okay.
I got a related question here.
Go
So
ahead.
this one's from Bertram. You've been answering a lot of this throughout this stream, but he's wondering, how do you know when to use a rule or not? And what problems do you look for that rules and guides cannot solve that type cannot?
Okay, answer that.
I'll tell you. Yes, you're right. We did answer that question. So number 1, rules were used to organize information. Okay, just like when you go to IKEA, you see a lot of organization. You see a lot of, help me out, you guys. You see a lot of structures that are, a lot of grid structure. You see a lot of grid structure that you can go and buy things to organize your materials or whatever you have. So that's how we're using lines here, and how Chris showed us earlier on with his demonstration of how he organized the information by bringing line to cradle them. So that's one way. The other way, which is my way, is by putting your foot on the gas and saying, look at me, I am here. You know, I've got power, pow, 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 you know. That's another way of doing it to design. So think about it as if you were to draw a line, how do you use line to organize information, and how to go to the other side where you're using lines to create more strength and power visually.
Now, there was another question that was from YouTube, and they said, when we cut off the R with this line here, they happen to read B. And I'll show you something here, because it depends on where you cut this thing. I'll move this down here. I'm going to change this to B. And you'll see that the B looks quite different than the R, and it's your familiarity with the letter forms that allows you to read it as an R, because of the way the leg of the R comes down and out, as opposed to arcing back. You can see clearly now that one says besonate and the other one says resonate. And of course, if you cut this off so high that you can't tell the difference, well, then that's where the problem is.
Let's do it.
You see this, this is a 2-story letter form, right? So you have the upper bowl and the lower bowl, the B, the belly or whatever. And you can see that because it's curved here and this is not curved here, then that's the only thing that you need to know. But otherwise, if you cut it here, for example, you can't tell. So if we go past this point, then you should be able to tell right around here. And that's the push and pull. And you saw earlier when Milka was working, she would do that, and she would she's making a lot of decisions that you may not be cognizant of, and she's pushing things around. Okay. The last thing, I don't know if I improved this layout at all, but I wanted to try to just drive this point with you guys that that you can use lines in ways that just don't just repeat the page itself. Okay. And I don't like the proportions here, but eventually if I worked on it long enough, I think I get it to work. Okay, Milka, you want to say something?
I thought maybe we could just zoom into it and it will solve the problem. That's all. And the other thing I did is I cheated a little bit and I made resonate a little bit bigger.
I saw that.
Yeah. Okay, good. Nice.
Okay, this one I want to talk about. This is from Joshua Gilly, who's also here with us live. What the heck? I thought this was really bold and really cool. He's using bold italic. I don't use sans serif italic or oblique typefaces very often, but here he's done it, and he's done like a really good job because my eye just goes there. It's got a lot of visual weight to it, and everything else is like quiet compared to that. Nicely done. I have one problem, is that he's repeating the Z. I just don't think you need to. And if I'm going to go in here, I'm just going to delete it. And I think it's fine. Resonate. Now, the problem here is this the corner N may need to come out a little bit. And this gets to the question I was asked on YouTube, like, where do you cut things off? So I cut things off where I feel like I can read it and then I'm good. And you don't need to feel the pressure to fill every little space. And I think that's okay. The other thing is, I don't think we need this. This is purely decorative and it's not really doing a lot for us from a design point of view. I think we just get rid of that and just let this be the hero. Okay, Joshua. Again, okay, so you're using shapes here and you don't have to use shapes in every one of your layouts for the rules and shapes, and you don't have to use lines. So I don't know. Maybe there's an issue here. I don't know if we need all these little bits and pieces. It gets a little busy for me at the bottom. Milka, what do you think?
I like the fact that he tried it out. Good, because you never know till you try it out. That's one. What bothers me is I want to see the triangle, the height of the triangle, the top of the triangle. I want it to be less. I want to see the letter Z, the terminal of the letter Z to blend itself with the background.
Okay, you want to mark it up, Milka? Now you know how to do that?
Okay, let me go in there.
And draw. I'll park this here so it won't move.
Annotate.
You can do it.
So what I'm saying is that, let's see. Can I draw a white box here? Can I draw?
Draw. Wait.
Yes, okay. I'm not getting the box. I'm just getting a line.
Just try to draw the line first. So that we can
Okay, I found it. All right, you guys just, it went back to, okay, see, I am choosing a format and it's giving me a line. How do I draw a box? There. We want a solid box. All right. Woof. I can breathe now. And then come over here and maybe, I don't know, but I'm going to give it a try. Again, I let the piece speak to me. I screen by, yeah, you still can see the letter Z. Okay. 8 might be a little bit funky.
Yeah.
But then, we push and pull, but the Z can be, still is recognizable. I can't move it, huh? All right. That's all.
Okay. Very cool. So I think I'm going to have to clear this now and I can do this. Clear all drawings. There we go. All right. So let's get back into it. Okay. All right. So what Milka was saying is she wanted me to drop this box, this top edge, and then you could see it there. Right? There's a little shape in here that was bugging her. So I Milka, you want to say something?
No, I'm laughing how easily you interpret what I'm trying to say.
Well, we can use a combination of you drawing and or you speaking, and then I'll do my best to help everybody see what you're talking about. Yeah, so I think the parts that you need to work on, Joshua, are this area at the bottom here. And I think you could push this up or down. It doesn't matter. But I just want to clean up some of the stuff and use the lines to communicate something, okay? Now I want to get into this one. This is from Vishka. I'm not going to even try to pronounce your last name here because it's too hard for me. There's lots of problems with this layout. And, in the loving, nurturing spirit of Milka, good job. I want to give you kudos for trying. But it's busted. It's busted in so many different ways. Like, I think you want to pick a trick and then stick to it. And I think here, it's like we've got these overlapping boxes and then we have these white lines as highlights. We've got a lot of things going on. Let's just delete this. It's not helping you. And then I start looking at this and now we got other kinds of problems in here. Oh, if I zoom in, I can see that these boxes are all overlapping in weird rhythms and they really should just be the same size, I think. So the first thing I want to do is try to get those things organized and hopefully I can do it. And then I'm going to go to align here and just make sure it's to each other, to selection. Yep. I'm going to center them up. And it did nothing. Come on. Maybe it's grouped. Yeah, something funky is going on there. But I think sometimes when you come up with a nice idea and you want to play around with shapes, and here we're using shapes mostly as illustration and mostly decorative, then don't go and do another thing. This is the one rule thing, right? So this is where we would take typography like this. I'll just steal this one from that one, right? And make this white. And you're going to see, I haven't even changed anything. I haven't fixed anything. I'll just bring it to the foreground here and just put it here. Make it centered. Come on. And it's going to be just a lot better because we don't need so many tricks. All right, Mishka. So let's go. So the advice for you is get your boxes all lined up, get some kind of rhythm. Like they're all kind of, it's a strange spacing, I think. Not quite sure how you did the spacing on this, but usually when you see like really good design, see like right here, you see how this corner is cut off like there? And these almost touch. This kind of goes, and then this doesn't touch. It's kind of like all over the place, man. Let me fix this. Let me see why.
Ooh, there you go. That was Command Y, right?
Yeah, it just won't let me grab anything.
There are your lines. Ooh, that
Oh,
became even more interesting.
Okay, so now I think I can do it. I'm gonna take. Oh shoot! It's grouped to a whole bunch of things. What is going on? Okay, one last try. Something is grabbing that. Ugh. I think it's accidentally grabbing this. Okay. Now I can grab this. And I'm going to try to align it left here, which it is now, and then get this thing lined up right on that point. Ooh, okay. There's still some, this is what I'm talking about, the details. Like if you're done with your layout, go in there and make it right, make it sing. And it's not singing for me right now, okay? Nia Morales, Nia, resin, where's the I? Yeah. So sometimes you have an idea and your idea doesn't fit the number of letters. This is where you probably want to add one more vertical column so that this can work, resonate, or you can do lots of different things here. You don't even need to do this. I'm going to show you a different way to tackle this, right? So it's missing an I there. So I like the rules that you create, but then you have to follow your own rules. So the R here is kind of coming in at a weird space for me. Oh, it's killing me. Computer's so slow. Okay. This week, people sent me all kinds of files and my computer behaved in ways it's never behaved before. So it's a first. Like I couldn't even move certain files because of the way that they're constructed.
Chris,
So,
from my eye, you're moving 160 miles an hour. So I don't know what you mean by being slow.
I like 340 miles an hour. All right. So I just want to try something here where you can use the vertical lines to kind of create this grid, this pattern. So we're talking about repetition and contrast, the cadence. And people had asked this thing, like, how do you know when to add the element of surprise? When your design becomes so predictable and boring and everything is super gridded out, you have one element that breaks it. Now, I think this 8 here, resonate, is probably too big. So I can scale it down a little bit. And maybe somewhere a design will take place. I don't know. Okay. But I just thought that you're missing the I there. It was kind of funny. All right.
Missing the focal point.
Maybe. Okay. Go ahead. You want to say something?
I just want to say I liked how she's playing with the reverse white line.
Yes.
And it's playful. I'd like to see this layout in maybe 5 different versions because it has a lot of potentials. To me, it had this beautiful dancing rhythm, and I liked it, but it needs more massage.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The other thing I might suggest trying here is that when you do the resonate, maybe they're lowercase letters. I'm not sure, because there's already this boxiness that exists with the vertical white stripes that you've added to this. And there's something that I want to show you too. So I'm going to delete this. I like how there's this uneven rhythm, like things go up and down, but most of them are up, like they're aligned to the top, and only 2 are down. So I'm going to try to do that, where I'm going to grab this and this, and I'm going to move it down. I'm going to try, come on, move down. And to create a rhythm there. So it's like
Nice.
up and down and up and down. So again, take
Nice.
these two. Why is this? Okay.
And Chris, what do you think about the right side? We did have a box on the far right, right? I think we got rid of it.
Yeah, I deleted one of them because
no worries.
generally speaking, I just don't want to take up the entire page and cut it off. So that's just a trick that I like to use, but there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's just I find that works the best. Okay, now that I've got that separated, I can move this down a little bit. Okay, and you know, you can keep working with this. Maybe this one's like really down.
Dynamic, very dynamic.
Right?
Yeah. It's now you see type in motion.
Okay, so some things to think about there, Nia. Good job. And then I'm going to move on to Michael Lau. Michael Lau has done something interesting here. He's really taken this concept of the cutout paper to heart, and he's really done something really interesting, in my opinion. So it looks like the poor resonate has been shredded to bits. And it's a really cool offsetting that he's done in repetition of the letters, almost as if he was thinking, if I had an X-Acto knife and I had 2 versions of resonate, I cut it apart, reassemble them together like he's putting together something that's gone through a shredder, we get this idea. And having all the type reversed out in these boxes, a little
Nice. I like that.
Here. I like that too. It really draws your eye towards the shape, and it makes us really aware of it. It also has that kind of highlighter or ransom note vibe to it, like somebody's putting something together. So I could see this treatment working for a cool suspense thriller, a movie poster. There's something really cool about it. I think the typography isn't all working together for me right now. So we want to see if we can get it to work. So go ahead, Milka.
Thank you. Michael, nice job. And it looks like you did this not by hand, but on the computer. So I really appreciate you giving that a try. Oh yes, Chris, you read my mind. Right now, Resonate is sitting in the middle of the page. If we take this page and fold it in half, you see that Resonate is sitting in the middle. We've talked about things that are almost in the middle. So folks, next time I see somebody doing something like this in the middle, no, I'm just kidding.
I'm gonna kick your butt.
I won't talk to you. We could probably take the word resonate, move it a little bit down, use the law of thirds. And then the other thing I like to see, oh, nice job, Chris. The other thing I like to see is, Chris, may I please trouble you to take the 1, 2, 3, the third line of resonate. If it's separated, is there any way we could extend it to the right? Hold the shift key and then extend it to the right, please. Yes, that's the line. That's it. Perfect. Okay. I don't know if we can even take that whole entire layout. Oh, you almost did it, no?
Yeah.
So it looks like it's because it's shredding, right? So it can't be sitting so perfectly on the page. So it needs to be a little bit less structured and more haphazard.
There's more randomness to this.
More randomness, that's right.
I don't know why I can't select certain things. Like everybody builds their files in funky ways. This is kind of like why we sometimes, especially me, will emphasize good file hygiene, as Matthew will call it, because without it, it just becomes really difficult. And I'm like fighting this thing the whole time, and soon I'll blow a gasket and freak out. And we don't want to see that. Okay. All right. Okay, so just having an element jut out like that to kind of make it feel a little bit more random. Those are kind of the details that you need to pay attention to. It probably needs something up here, but that's the idea. Okay, good job, Michael. This is from Jason Jacobson. Hopefully I tapped that in. This is really neat.
Yeah.
This is like one of the better examples of taking type and moving it on an axis like this, and then creating the illusion of 3D-ness. And it's pretty cool. I have to say, very convincing effect here.
I love to see how he did it, how he constructed it.
Here, just hit Command Y.
Mm.
So I think he skewed the type and did it like via an isometric grid.
And he put a box around it.
Yeah.
To
really neat. Okay, so this is a good example of, I got one trick, I'm going to stick to my trick, and I'm not going to get too crazy with everything else. Where does it fall apart? Look at this little cluster of information here. We have all uppercase, we have bold, we have light or regular, and then we have some other one, and it's another point size. Too many things in here, too many things. So let's just go and make in this issue this point size and that weight, and just be done with it. It doesn't need to be screaming, hey, look at all this other stuff. I think by virtue, and this is one of those laws of contrast where you have this big dynamic shape and you have this little thing, they really play off each other well. The only thing is we need to have something up here. And maybe that's all that we need. Should I delete this? Okay. Maybe this is either too low or too high. I'm not quite sure. All right. Good job, Jason.
Yeah. Good job.
Way to go. Milka already exploded this thing out and had so much fun with it, with the textures and everything. And I think you saw a great example of that already. This is where we use the lines to draw your eye, push and pull. It's pulling all of our attention towards the center. Converging lines like this are always a trick that photographers use to help draw your eye into something. Storyboard artists will do the same thing. They'll take the lines of a building and they'll draw it with a certain vantage point, vanishing point, and then everything will draw your eye towards the center, which if we kind of allow our eye to connect, it's right around here somewhere, which happens to be exactly where resonate is. So good job on that. I think like Milka did, just go a little more bananas on it. And I think you've done a great job, Chris Jansen. Okay, Keith Cox. Keith. This is one of those layouts where I'm like, okay, we've introduced shapes and lines, but we've fallen back a little bit. We've taken a couple of steps forward and we're falling back here, in my opinion, Keith, because there's so much stuff going on and I'm not quite sure what any of these shapes do for us in terms of reading, hierarchy, or anything. If we zoom out and we say, where's the greatest point of contrast? It's going to probably be, graphic design or this triangle.
Yeah.
But there's nothing important in here. And so I'm not quite sure what's happening. And then we have these really awkward shapes being created everywhere. You've taken the layout and you've broken it into these tiny grids. And they're like, here's another grid line up here, which has no information. So this is probably one where Milka's like, Chris, can we just, yeah, I'm just gonna bring it up and at least just get rid of some of the complexity. It's not necessary. Yeah. Go ahead, Milka, you're gonna say something?
I think Keith is designing with passion, and I really admire that. I saw his other work, and when I looked at it, I was like, wow. But then I was like, whoa. The wow was like, yay, he is putting his foot on the gas. But then the whoa was like, oh no, yes, as you said, Chris, we're back to square one. All those things that we taught you, where did it go? So Keith, please go and implement some of the things that we've taught you about hierarchy, about space, about contrast, about first reads, second read, focal point, go massage it. This is a good design in terms of putting your foot on the gas and saying, I don't care how bad it is. Sorry.
He's putting on his bandana. It's like, I'm ready for type war and I'm going to go for it. The things that are really funky because it's like, where does my eye go? Like, where is it supposed to go? We talk about this being a focal point, right? When it's not supposed to be. This might be important, but it just says graphic design. We know that it's graphic design magazine. It should be reserved for Resonate or something else. This is really the subhead. And then it's centered. So it's kind of a strange layout here. Maybe you're trying to repeat the arrow shapes a lot. I don't know. This is one of those things where you kind of start to remove elements one at a time. And you start to say to yourself, Is it better? Is it worse? And then you're
Ooh.
going to find the culprit for it. Okay. So a lot of things working that need to be worked out here. All right. Let's see here. I think you already talked about Nikki Robin.
Yes.
Did you already talk about Luftan?
No.
Okay. I think Luftan has also been doing his homework. I think there's the gridiness of like a Joseph Miller Broughim going on here. We can see the grid here. So the question here for all of us to think about is, what is the functionality or what's the function of the boxes? So it's easy to get mesmerized by the stuff that these masters in design have done. And then now it's like, without the context of what it was made for and what the boxes represent, I can just look at it purely on a formal level, like the shapes itself. So we have this thing to anchor this, but it's not necessarily grouping or emphasizing, but then this, and it goes here. Like overall, like the placement of the boxes, the shapes and the sizes are nice.
Yeah. But there's no relationship
No
between the
relation.
lines and the copy.
And that's where we need to work on this. Okay. So Luftan, good try here. I'm glad that you're really having fun with the shapes and placing them. I think you got a good sense for where things are supposed to go. But I'm going to encourage you for next week to have at least 50% of your use of shapes and lines is functional, and the other 50% is decorative, if not maybe even heavier on the functional side. Because once you master the functional part, making it decorative, that's the fun part. It's easy to do. Okay. Here's
Correct.
another one from Luftan. I think this is a double layout here. Okay, this one's really reserved. And he's done something here that's really interesting. He's taken the traditional cross axis thing and he's broken it on both axes. He's broken it on the vertical axis and then he's broken it on the horizontal axis or axis. I don't know how to say the plural. Okay.
Can we have fun with this one?
Yeah. What do you want to do? Talk to me.
I don't know. This one is begging for like a thicker lines. Like, let me see if I can.
Draw on it.
Let me see if I can implement it. Oh, it doesn't let you do Command Z. Okay, there you go. Sorry, you guys. This is going to be very crude because of the limited access I have.
No
Ooh,
apology. Foot on the gas. Go for it.
yeah, already. Look at that. Woohoo. That's talking to me. So let's see. Does it make sense when I say let the layout talk to you? Because honestly, it does. If you listen to it, you look at it and squint your eyes and look back, it tells you more or less. I don't know. I'm gonna be this experimental. Should I go that far? Should I go this far? I'm speaking out loud. I'm gonna try this far. Can I come over here, draw another line? How far do I go? Maybe this height. Okay, since these have lines underneath them, should this one have a line? Folks, I'm speaking out loud, just so you know. And then I'm gonna come over here.
I think you're thinking out loud. You could only speak
I'm
out.
thinking.
ESL guys, forgive it.
Out loud.
Thinking
Thank
out
you,
loud.
Chris. I can't. All right. You know, so thank you, Chris. And then I'm going to come over here. Oh, this is getting so ugly. That's good because sometimes it's so ugly. It's so ugly that it's beautiful.
How do you know it's beautiful? Like
Because
they're sitting there thinking, is it ugly?
it speaks back to you. I don't know, but it's
Design Whisperer. What does it say?
It's so bad that sometimes you find some discoveries. Maybe not the whole thing is speaking to each other. Can I Command Z that?
Yeah, you just did that.
Again, okay, not bad, not bad. What do you think, Chris? Do you want to add anything or subtract anything? Oh, I think I know one more. Yes, please. Sorry to interrupt you. Yeah.
I haven't said anything. Go ahead. This is what it's inside Milka's head, you guys.
Yes, Milka's head. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, something like that. I'm not sure. Let's see.
I'm going to suggest that we start a new Netflix series called Being Milka Broukhim. And just consciousness, we hear every thought that you say. Or
I love Netflix. I hope Netflix will hire me.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and clear this here. You guys got this. There's some interesting shapes that are being gone on here. So I clear all drawings, and we're back. All right. Excuse me. All right. Ooh.
Ooh.
Ooh. Okay, this is Kang Win. Kang has
Nice.
Then there's a couple of layouts. So some interesting things going on here. Excuse me. All right. Resonate. So he's using dots here to connect things, I think, but then he ends it with this, which, oh, I see.
Semicolon.
It's a, is that the semicolon or the colon?
It's a colon.
Yeah, it's the colon, right? So it's kind of a weird connection. I understand what he's doing here. Okay, it's usually like save for a page number, like page 4, page 7. I think that would work much better as a table of contents, a talk. But what I really am drawn towards is this resonate and kind of using 2-point sizes. And this is one of the more successful uses of a stroked typeface. So usually I don't like them, but you have to use a big bold one like this, and it holds up well. It's an all capital one, and then he put the box around it too to kind of draw your eye towards it. There's some really interesting, fun things going on here. Milka, you have anything to add?
I really like this layout. I agree. I like the fact that it's trying to be simple, gentle, and strong at the same time. My question is that if I were to hire this designer, would he or she be able to design different layout in terms of using good typography? Why do I say that? Because everything at this moment is all cap. All cap is working in terms of form and shape, but not in terms of readability. Okay, cool. Can you change that?
I thought I could.
The lowercase?
Why didn't it change that?
I see a lot of all cap with many of the designs. And yes, visually it looks good. It's like having everything, forced center, but then the readability is hindered.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure before you guys graduate from this course that you feel very comfortable taking those body of copy and implementing different weights, bold, regular, light, different sizes, large, medium, small, and multiply those 3 factors, which is 9, right? 3 times 3 is 9. You've got 9 different parameters that you have to work with. Be aware of that. And how can you create a first read, second read, and third read? Right now, the subhead resonate is beautiful, gorgeous. And I love how you're playing with the lines. It is creating some boxes on the edge of the top left. It is, but then that's the layout, and then everything else breathes to your right. That's fine. It's okay. Could we do it any other way? Yes, you can. And thank you, Chris, for doing this as I'm talking this. And I want
I don't
to,
know. I'm just playing while you're talking. Okay.
please.
Yeah.
And one thing, Chris, someone said that you have all caps on in the typography tool,
I do.
your type tool.
Type and tool. Where's my type tool?
On the right.
Lower right.
On the right, I think. Is it not the 2 T's that are
Right.
caps?
Okay. I don't see all. Is this here? Is that why?
Potentially.
Oh, well, I didn't change it.
Maybe not.
I think because he typed it in all caps, so sometimes you can't change it that way. Well, if you guys figure it out, sometimes I don't know why. Look, here's the difference between the two. It's small caps versus all caps. See, it's still caps. It's just small caps now.
That looks even better.
Because there's room to breathe.
Yeah.
It's smaller. So,
Chris, I love how you're showing us the difference. You're comparing and contrasting so we can really understand and learn more. Thank you.
you're welcome.
They're saying to uncheck both of them.
Okay, let's try. Yeah. Okay. You guys on the internet, you're so smart.
Boom.
My gosh, so smart. All right, now I can change it. Type, change case. Where are you? Change case to sentence case. Or title case. I didn't do that right. Change case. You know how sometimes you do something 1,000,000 times, but then when 1,000 people watch you, your brain doesn't work anymore.
We didn't notice that at all.
Yeah. So the other thing here, Kang, is you're going to 6-point type. So you're starting to drift into some dangerous territory about legibility here. That's the very lowest end where you can put your type. So I'm gonna let Milka keep talking because while Milka's
Yeah, thank you for talking about legibility. In fact, I wanted to bring something to everyone's attention. I'm noticing that these past couple of weeks, the typography is nice and tight. Good job. Good job for being aware of that. Be aware that as we increase the size of the type, we're also increasing the size of the space in between. So we're very much aware of that. However, when the text is reduced, so is the space in between. So if you want your text to be more readable, you need to increase the tracking. So if the text is small, like for instance, if you're going for 6 point, the way to make 6 point readable is to track it out so that I can understand and see each letter and be able to put it together. Let me give you an example. Freeway signs. We live in LA, and I know many of you guys don't, but the freeway sign in LA, there's a lot of space between each letters if you look at it. Why? Because from far away, those texts is not big, they're small, right? So we, as a driver, we have to be able to recognize the letter form each individually so we can read it together. So I hope that helps. Ooh, wow, Chris, what did you do? I missed it.
Just working with the layout. This time, something looks funny about it. Medium, is it stretch or something? I'm gonna get rid of this extra spacing. Something that looks funny to me. I don't know. We're gonna keep working on this at some other point, but I just wanted to take this element that I thought was really fun, this outline version. It's very thin stroke, and then I just duplicated and repeated it. And it created this kind of weird spiral graph repetition thing. There's lots of ways to create this kind of look and effect. And here I'm using it as illustration, but I've lost some of the legibility. So I want to show you, like, well, sometimes you do this and it works, and sometimes it doesn't. In this case, I've lost some of the legibility, and so I can counteract that by just repeating the end and the 8 back. So on this, I make a little bit bolder so we don't lose it. Shoot, computer, come on.
Can you make the top layer outline bolder? Make the line thicker, so maybe that way it stands out so we're not repeating information.
Oh, here? You want to make this thicker? Yeah, of course.
Yes, please. Ooh, like a ghost coming alive. It's just an idea.
Mm-hmm. I think when I saw the box, I thought about the periodic table of elements, and I was thinking, oh, maybe there's something there. I don't know. Gosh, this computer.
Yeah, I like it.
Come on. All right, whatever.
I like it.
Okay. So, and I don't think we have to make everything fit inside a box. There still can be some really dynamic play here and offsetting. All the things we've learned in the previous weeks, you could still play around with it. And then the rest of this, I would probably treat really simply and then be done with it. Okay. Here's another one from Kang here. Again, okay, so using strips of paper. This one feels like those old Dymo. You know, you remember how to, like when you were in junior high for you, Milka? Dymo printer where you'd select the letter and you hit and it would print it out, pull it off, and it kind of has that feeling to it.
Is that what it was called? Dymo?
Yeah, there's a typeface called Dymo based on that. I actually have it, and I'll show you what it looks like, okay? So why don't you look at this layout and talk about it while I help everybody see the rest of this.
Okay, sure. All right, I think there's a beauty about this page, and the beauty is simplicity, but then can we make this better? Yes, we can. How are we going to make this better? Right now, we're at a stage where we can use different sizes, different weight, different lines. And we talked also about space from the very beginning. There's a lot of scattered space happening in this layout. This layout is interesting. It's got this simplicity, which I really like, but at the same time, I'm wondering if we go in there and massage some of those space between those lines and vary the size, how would it come out? I'm curious and I'm wondering. The other factor is the margin. Look, we have a margin at the top, we have a margin on the left, we have a margin at the bottom, but not at the right. So that margin creates an
You can still write
invisible
on this, remember.
box. Cool, you found it.
Yeah, you could still write on this, remember. So instead
Yeah.
of just talking about it, you can just use your red marker and just mark it up.
So the name of the typeface is called Dynamo.
This one's called Dynamo. I think they're called Dymo, but I think it's a brand name and I can't remember, but it's something like that. So you can see there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what it's reminiscent of, and it has a cool old school vibe look to it.
Yeah, old school vibe. I would probably take this layout and cut it up and then do it by hand. You'd be surprised at how much more life will be injected into it. Nice job, Chris.
Thanks. So that's the typeface, you guys. And you can kind of,
Ooh, I love it.
do in real life, obviously, because those Dymo things can't be scaled. But once you create it, you can scan it and put it in the computer. And I like that in just me kind of rebuilding your layout here, King, that maybe there's only a few things that are reversed out and then everything else is kind of like this, the Journal for Graphic Design. So I'm going to ask you next time to be very cognizant of this. I think most people, when they're starting out with design or they're just getting their feet wet, they'll use all caps because all caps, it feels like easier for you because the cap height and the baseline, you get this consistent line across. And I'll show the people what I mean when I say that, okay? So if I have a line right here, reverse this out, make this like 0.25. Okay, so you guys can see this. And it makes it easier for you because you're like, I feel a little bit more calm. I'm not as nervous about this, okay? So you're seeing that, right? But what you don't realize, what Milka is saying, very hard to read, super hard to read. So part of the designer in you is like, oh, it's just more even. I feel better about it. But then you put the work on the poor person who has to read it. So now we can see we have, and we've talked about this in week 1.
Yeah. Ooh, nice. I love the
Right.
space out. Beautiful.
We talked about this in week 1 where people really read the shape before they actually can see the actual letters. It's kind of strange how that works. So I know this is messier for you visually, but in terms of us being able to read it, you just have to get comfortable with, yeah, it's going to be better. Okay. So for you next week, let's not use all caps anymore. Use it sparingly. We know that on the internet, if you're commenting on something, you don't use all caps because all caps sounds like you're screaming, and it's kind of similar. Use it very sparingly. Okay. But overall, really love the exploration. Just the range from one to the next has been really good. You and a couple of people are doing that. So awesome job. Bertram, I think we've already talked about. Lars also already talked about. I think Milka did a really good job of just helping push the design a little bit. What I want to do is just bring it in.
Thank you. Yeah. Nice.
Because you're cutting off all the space. You're taking one big, beautiful, modern, spacious layout, and you're cutting it up into 3 chunks. All right. Tiny little adjustment. This part is problematic for me and why it's up here. I think we got to fix that. Right. So, okay.
Yeah, I'm laughing because I like what you're doing.
So it should be something like that. Okay. And then the spacing, you have to work this out optically to make that, or maybe it's on the grid. I don't know. Okay. Brian Butler had 2 really interesting layouts. Okay. So here we're not using lines necessarily for functional reasons. We're using it as a graphic element, and I think it's okay because otherwise what's happening here, I'll point out, see this, the spine of the vertical stroke of the E, there's some kind of grid line there, and he otherwise is not really reinforced except for with this. So what he's done smartly is to reinforce it with this line here and then this line down here. So it really creates a nice axis to play off of. And it's really successful in that way. And again, with this here, I think he's trying to tie the 8, maybe to pull our eye from this side of the page all the way to this side of the page. And I think it's working really well. Not a whole lot will change with this. Well done.
Yeah. It's a little bit in the middle of the page. That's the only thing.
You want to move it somewhere?
Yes.
Where should we move it?
I would like to see it move up, possibly, please. One more, keep going. Okay. And then maybe we can grab something from either, let's see, where it says graphic. Yes, that area, exactly. You read my mind. Wow, you're good.
I'm just waiting for you to finish the sentence. You want to move this down here?
Yes, please move that. Nice. There you go.
Maybe move this
And
forward.
that, maybe that one too, or not. You never know till you try it.
You never know.
Yeah. So you guys get the idea. We've gone over these things before. Play with it and let it speak to you.
Yeah.
Right now, the space between, I like where the box that Chris just moved is. I would probably move it a little bit more to the edge of the paper, possibly, because nice. Oh, woof, beautiful. And yeah, Chris, what do you think?
Yeah.
That's it. One click, you solve the problem.
Oh, okay, Brian. This is also very interesting to me. I'm scared to hit preview. Come on. Okay. Wake you up. Okay. But I love that there's this square grid and that you've used the 8 and you've repeated it and they're interesting shapes. This is not easy to do because oftentimes when you crop letter forms like this, you get really weird shards. And for the most part, I think you've done a really good job. If I look in here, this is what I'm talking about, like these weird things that happen between here and here. And these, look, you see how it's a little bit right there? So those tend to get a little problematic for me, but you can resolve that. I like bigger shapes like this. So they're not like these tiny little shards. Like the bottom one is good. It's like where it meets the top one is a little funky. So I think this one is really just taking the 8 and blowing it out and repeating it. It's kind of a nice pattern that you've created. I think it's pretty cool. And then the rest of the type, this is another really good example for me of taking one trick, letting it be the hero, the star. And then everything else is just nice and quiet, sitting on the grid. Light in its weight. Spaced out, open letting. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Good job. Okay, let's keep going here. Okay, now we're heading into this and we're kind of almost in the home stretch here and we're a little over time. So I'm going to try to keep this really fast. All right. Priscilla, you're using the lines to repeat the shape. I think it's redundant. If you want to repeat the shape, try to find a more expressive way to do this. This is one of those very centered layouts. And I'm going to caution you, maybe I'm just some dirty old man, but there's a phallic shape here. I just want to warn you. This is the reason why, generally speaking, Milka and I are going to discourage you from doing centered layout because you almost have no control over the letters or the way the shape builds. Okay. Let me just draw on top of this so you guys know what I'm talking about. Milka, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, actually, in order to do a successful center shape, it has to have that in, out, in, out, in, out. If you look at some old books, that might help you with the cover to see what it looks like. Yeah, right now we're seeing I see a rocket actually, but
Yeah.
Chris is something else.
It looks a little phallic to me.
I like, Priscilla, I like the design around the edge of the page, but I get the feeling that you were ambivalent. There were two things that you were in love with. You were in love with the middle shape and you were in love with the outer shape. And right now they're not speaking to each other yet. So Chris, how would you solve that?
I'm going to try to do it right now. And I agree with you. Sometimes we see that you guys come up with parts that you really love, but they don't work well together. And that's problematic. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go like this.
Whew.
Okay. Second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do this.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
Why so many tricks? We don't need it.
Good
and
job.
then
Good
probably take that and this, and then just align it to the left. Okay. And then if we need this, we should use this in a functional way and maybe group these things together like we talked about. Take this thing down here and then take this and repeat it down here. So it's a container. Hey, we're related. We don't look like we're friends, but we are really friends. And then we have to work at the rest. That's
Chris,
all.
I think she had it vertical because the lines on the sides are also vertical. I don't mind the vertical lines if you repeat it, but I also like the horizontal as well.
What vertical line? Like these lines?
Yes.
Oh no, the reason why this line was vertical before, if I undo all this stuff, because it was connecting one group with the other.
Yeah.
Right? But as soon as I removed the centered nature of this layout, it didn't seem to make sense. So
Yeah.
once we went justify left, like that seems awkward, like it's sticking out of there in no man's land. So that's why.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And creating that space, oh, beautiful. You can breathe now.
Okay. So we'll keep working on this. Okay, Priscilla, good job. So this is Andre Ehrman's work, and Andre is like, he's referencing Shea Lei Ni. And I'm not familiar with this person's work, but I'm glad he included here because I think it's wonderful to be able to study and actually trace over and copy what other people are doing. Is this Helvetica? It's like condensed or something. So this one is like, I'm scared to like look at it because I don't know what's going on. So it's very illustrative. It's got some, is this Art Deco, these lines? It's Art Deco, right? Some Art Deco vibes here, Milka, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, and then some shapes in there. So it's very illustrative. I think this is usually like what happens when people get started with using shapes and lines. They start drawing and they forget that there's typography. And I do want to point something out before the end of the show here. When you guys are using just shapes, like pure rectangle and dash and lines, your instincts tell you what to do. The weird thing is when you convert the shape back into type, you forget about these relationships or vice versa. It's really interesting because, you see there's a shape here, this triangle, and then Andre drew this line because he saw that there's a spine here and he likes the solid nature of the shape versus the thinness of the stroke. And I think it's really nice. Think about how your typography works. And I'm going to show you an example. So if we have a block of type here, we can take one line like this, rotate it, and I'm going to show you the visual equivalent to those shapes. So some of you guys who can think in shape easier than you can think in type, this is the visual equivalent to that. Okay, where you take a thin line and you have a shape.
Yeah.
Almost the same. So I'm going to make this bold so that I can further emphasize that.
Nice.
Okay, you guys see what I'm talking about there? Bold and light. Where is that thing? So the shape and a thin line. So if shapes works for you, if shapes is your jam, if you're an illustrator, if you just like making shapes, think about like, oh, what's the equivalent to typography and make that work. All right. Nice job. Love the playfulness of this, all the patterns, textures, and tints that you're putting in there. That would be one of the great, like if I don't have the original to reference here, so I don't know how close this is to it, or if you've learned how to make it your own. Okay, Faisal Omar. This is a crazy layout.
Yeah.
And I like it.
Yes. It's like cut and paste it.
Yeah.
I can't wait for next week to see how crazy everyone's layout's going to be.
Milka, this cannot be a Helvetica G, can it?
No, it
No.
ain't.
So,
the loop is open.
Yeah, there's some, yeah.
But it has a very sexy S.
Are you talking about my S?
No, the S in the word design.
I'm with you. Okay. I want to take this line and try this thing here. So I'm going to make this a lot bolder or thicker. Properties.
The D also has a little bit of a spur, the lowercase d. Yeah.
Yeah. You guys can't fool us, man. We're going to see it. So maybe this is one of those ones where he doesn't have the typeface. So you know how
I like that.
Doing something like this, taking, oh shoot, I pushed it too far. There's like a 1 second delay for me. So you guys, when you're using the lines, use the lines still to group, even though it's super expressive and fun.
Yes.
And have a good time. This
I
one
love it.
did go crazy. And I like it that it's crazy.
Chris, I think we should extend this class one more week so everybody revise their designs with all their feedback and see how that goes.
Okay, we shall see. We'll revisit that. For another
but it will be extra credit.
Okay, so here's work from Stefan. And Stefan has just cut the page, black, big shape. I get it. Nice. Reverse everything out. He's done something really interesting here with the resonate. Not adding a new element, but cutting it. So this feels like a logo lockup. feels really nice. Beautiful contrast between super thin and then something bold. And Stefan, just really good choice here. Very tastefully designed. I could see this being an ad already. Boom.
Stefan, I would recommend you, instead of having these odd shapes of columns at the bottom, try a straight line instead. This would be a layout where you could go symmetrical. You do have the option. You
Michael,
can
draw
afford.
it.
I'm sorry.
Draw on it.
Oh, sure.
Then we have these wonderful digital tools to work with. You don't have to imagine. Yeah. Pick
Okay.
color and draw.
All right. So what I'm recommending, instead of these being in column, maybe they can be straight line all the way across, straight line all the way across, straight line all the way across. So that one's not as straight. Why? Because you have this center line right here, and then I would move that. I would move that and center it. Okay, that's all.
Okay, cool. So let me clear that. Boom. Clear all. Hit this. So now that Milka has communicated to me what her intention there is, I'm going to steal this line and just show you so it's nice and clean. What the heck? Oh, that's locked for some reason. Okay, I'll figure it out. Okay, so she's talking about making this one line of type. Is that what
Yes.
you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So here's the
So-
cool thing. You don't even have to do what Milka's saying to achieve the exact same idea of what she's saying. So let me make this 0.25 stroke. And she's saying like she likes a horizontal grouping, something like, right?
Ooh.
See, so you know what I'm
Wow,
saying?
Chris,
What she's talking about. I'm going to show you guys a little tricky.
you're brilliant.
Gee, thanks. Thank you. Now, if I take the ruler tool, which I haven't done this in a while, it's right here. And if I select these two things, I'm going to measure the distance between this point and this point. And how far away is that? What the heck? Did I not do this right? There we go. It's like 11.131. Okay, so just remember that, 11.131. So if you take these two columns of text and you change the leading to 11.31, it should line up beautifully. You see that?
Ah,
Little trickaroonie here for you guys.
damn.
Yeah, and then this way you can take that. I wish I had Milka as a client. Actually,
Sure, I'll pay you
yeah.
to do.
I'd love to work for you because
Hey,
then you're
come
like, damn.
Come and design my house for me.
So there you go. So some suggestion there for using lines to group. Now those things are grouped together, but they're also kind of creating an extra visual element, something for you to think about. Stefan, I like the original. I love Milka's suggestion here. Of course, I broke it here, but I'm not going to spend the time to fix that, but you guys get the idea. Very nicely done. This is from Kevin Portillo. So I think I know what happened here. I somehow accidentally forgot and left this sucker on top, which I don't want to do. So let me lock that, select these things and bring them down to the design layer and then lock it back up. All right. So Kevin is drawing the grid.
I like that.
You like that? So there's this thing that Massimo Vignelli is famous for saying, like grids are like underwear. It's meant for support, but not meant to be seen. You are literally making it seen. It's like, so it adds another visual element. I would love for you to start looking at how to use lines as ways of communication, tools to anchor and lock things up and guide the eye. I think you're doing similar things to what we talked about before, which is to use this to group this. Here's the thing. I always have a problem with this. I always wonder why is this box so wide when the elements that it's containing, the widest element is here. So I'll show you what I mean. So we took this line. You can see I'm fighting your layout here, dude. Some people still don't want to listen to me. Still want to put things in boxes when they don't need to be. So then I'm thinking about starting a new show. It's called Grumpy Old Man. And I just yell at people like, you darn kids putting boxes around single lines of type.
You already have 2 kids. Don't you yell at them enough?
I don't. I'm a loving, nurturing parent. What are you talking about?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that was not fair. I know you're loving and nurturing. I
No,
was
it's
just being
fine.
funny.
No. Okay, so I take this. I think when we, oh yeah, I locked it. When we take, so Kevin, I give up on your design. We'll just move on. That's the way I'm going to punish you. Ah, all right. Yoshinao. Okay, some interesting layout stuff going on there. Yoshi,
Yes,
right?
yes, very
Some
90s.
inspiration. Yeah, there's some really cool reversed out things, and I think this is an interesting wild element. I would not
Yeah.
really put that in, but it's like, wow, that's kind of weird and
It-
kind of interesting.
It's making it 3D in a
Yeah.
2D fashion.
It's so weird.
It's
I don't know.
using low tech to create high tech.
Yeah. So maybe one thing that we might try is just to take this line here. Why is this selected? Okay. All right. I'm gonna try and take this line here. Just move it up. Maybe. I don't know why. I just feel like one thing should be a little bit weird, so it's not all in perfect white boxes. But that's just me. Overall, really interesting design. The problem I may have too is here. Again, guys, try to not use these tints until you figure out your design and you know how to make stuff work. Because sometimes I think you're cheating
But
with things.
Chris, I think if I may defend him or
Please.
her, is that they're showing that this is for January and February, not the other months.
Mm-hmm.
So they're adding extra information in there. But then, yeah.
So sometimes I will applaud you to go ahead and put in extra information. But January and February are things that we know that March and April come after. So we need to track that. I would just prefer you just put lines there, and I'm going to do it just because I can. And since Milka's not driving, she can't. She can't. I can just do it. Like, to me, this would be just fine.
Yes.
You don't need that. And then maybe just make it
Yes.
white.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's all.
And then if people ask you why you have those lines there, you can say it's because to indicate the rest of the month of the year. And they'd be like, oh, wow, that's so smart.
Mm. Okay.
Ooh, how did I miss this one?
Well, see what happens when you don't open my PDF?
Please
Okay.
don't send them to me 12 hours before.
I send them as soon as I get them done.
Okay.
Boom. So Resonate, there was a little problem there with a gap, and we want to make sure it's sitting on there. Another really wild layout.
Yes.
I really like it. It's so off kilter.
Yes.
Circles. Like, I personally wouldn't have figured out to put that in there, and you put it in, but yes, it needed a kind of a circular element. Otherwise, it's getting too geometric and too boxy, too rectilinear, and that curvilinear element in there is just nice. It's
Good job. Very nice.
modern art. Okay. Well done, Janek.
Well done.
Yuri. Okay. Yuri, we have, okay. Milka's giving you an ooh. I'm giving you a little concern myself, but go ahead, Milka. What do you want to say?
Well, I love everything about the layout, Yuri, except Resonate.
Okay, let me fix it.
Yes, because right now, as Chris has always been saying, you want to have one trick. You already have the whole layout as a trick. Oh yes, get rid of it, please. Wow, look at that gorgeous space. That looks like actually a floor plan of a living room.
Mm.
Chris, where would you put the Resonate? I would probably put Resonate small and dark. Here, I'll show you where. I would put it here. I would put Resonate very bold and dark right here.
Got it.
Should I get rid of it?
No, leave it there. It's fine. We're working together.
Because right now, the beauty of this layout is not about read Resonate first. It's about read Saul, Lester, Joseph, the artist first. I love it. And then how the eye just rotates plans. Oh, beautiful.
Okay. So Yuri, I think you in the past, if I remember correctly, you're very good at doing this kind of clean modern design. You know how to tie elements together. I think this week I looked at a bunch of your layouts or the ones that you submitted, and it felt like you were still figuring out how to use rules and shapes, right? And I think right now, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it's kind of design elements, and I want you to see if you can use it in a more functional way. Okay, but I think the biggest offender was that repeating R resonate thing with the lines underneath it. Okay, let's keep moving here. Bhuvan, really interesting layout. Really big 8 that's cropped off and using 2 boxes, keeping it really simple. Perhaps Milka will say they're not talking to each other, perhaps. Or
There
maybe,
are 3 different islands. The 8 is, I would either go with ultra thin for the 8. Do we have that? Chris, can you do ultra thin for the 8?
yes, I can.
Yay, awesome, ultra thin. Oh, beautiful. I don't know. Oh,
Why did you want to go thin here? I'm curious.
because it's already really, really large. It doesn't need to be bold.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, even thinner than that, if possible. Can we make the outline thin? Oh, can we make it an outline?
We can make anything you want.
Let's see. You never know till you try it.
There it is.
Okay. Okay. It's beginning to have some depth. Good. It's beginning to have some depth. Now 8 is there. It does have its own space, but then what's important is about this area. And this speaks first, second, and third. I like the depth better this way. It is a little bit naked. But Chris, what else would you suggest?
I don't know. I liked it a little bit heavier here, generally speaking, unless it's a really big.
Go ahead if you want to
Like-
show me what you were thinking.
Right. But I have issues here. Like, what the heck is this, Bhuvan? So this is one where you just want to make it clean. You want to make it simple. You don't want to like be bleeding things off. And I think there's something going on here. I don't understand. I'm not even sure. Is this Helvetica?
And there's more text going out of the page.
Yeah, it's just like you don't need it. Just keep it simple. Okay. We don't have time to sit here and dissect every single one. This is one from Mozu. So Mo's done one layout here, which I think is really beautiful.
Yeah.
It's got some movement. It's got some weird stuff happening here, Mo. A little kind of, you have to be mindful of these little trap spaces in here, but it's got some vertical, horizontal. He's got the lines here, the rules to kind of group these things together to say like, we're related, but we want to push your eye over to these 2 columns of information. And then he's cut this 8 apart, repeating his column. So some of it's decorative. I don't mind it. And then he's got this strong block here to kind of pull your eye over there.
Yeah.
Little detailed bits. I like it.
I do. Mo, good job. It's a very active page. May I try something, please? I'm curious to know what would happen if we were to, Chris, you might do it faster. I'm just curious to know. Oh, no, I don't want it black. Okay, I want it. Oh, wow. Where did that come from? Here, let me clear my drawings. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to choose white text. And I want to make sure it's a box. And I'm going to come over here and draw a white box just to see what happens. Woo! Look at that. Now that is called being sexy. It's beautiful. It's clean. Because there was too much happening.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Too much happening.
Do me a favor and clear that and I'll take care of it.
Yes, please. I will. Here you go.
Okay. So really what Milka was just talking about is you have some really beautiful stuff already. So we can just get rid of some of it and it'll be fine. That is a really beautiful layout.
So nice. Oh, I would pay for that. Another poster I would pay for.
Another design for Mo. I think this is one of those ones where I had all kinds of problems with this file copying, pasting at different typefaces. I think this is one of those Memphis designs again. I think I'm saying it right, the Memphis style. So I applaud you for the effort, the energy trying this. I would have never tried this personally. So it's like you're really pushing it. I see that you're getting more and more confident each time every single
Yes.
week coming back, adding graphic drop shadows. I like this. It's tasteful. It's interesting. He's even made a little stamp here. Of course, I had to convert everything, Mo. So next time, please do me a favor and convert your things to outlines, just to give me the option, because it took me a while just to get this layout to look the way it does by converting all your typefaces. Okay. So probably I inadvertently changed some things because of the typeface shifted. I can't edit it. It's just an image that I imported
Yeah.
here. Okay.
And Mo, make sure you put those two design in your portfolio, because it really shows how diversified you can design things.
Okay, so we've seen these kinds of layouts. Something must have happened here. I may have broken this. I don't know. So I'm gonna leave this. You're just, it's missing the lines and the shapes, but overall, it's the right idea. Just keep working on it, Luca. Okay. This one I want to talk about. This is from Patrick, right? Patrick has the 8 hidden in here. He does
Ooh.
a lot. Okay. I like this label concept and just like tilting it. I think something has moved here because it probably should be cut off here. You guys get it. I feel okay about this. Like if this were like a spot varnish,
Mhm.
something like a really cool print trick, I think that'd be really neat.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like one little idea, an illustration. I think it also can work just fine with just like a full 8 that you drop in here without having to repeat it, making this texture out of it. But really well done. Jing Wang. And the reason why you guys I'm rushing is we're 26 minutes over, and soon my son is going to have piano lesson or something like that. So we're going to interrupt it. Jing, really nice layout. I like it. You're using all caps here, making it hard to read. I know that the shapes are easier for you, but it's much harder to read. Using these lines to draw eye across to reinforce the grid lines, all very good. Nice layout. Probably a couple of modifications here and there, but overall very successful.
Nice job, Christina. Nice job.
Christina, Testana. Okay. Some cut lines here, some angles, very dynamic. Some grid lines being pulled apart. Again, no shapes, no lines in this one, really, except for the separator bar. So I'd love for you to keep going, Christina. Sometimes I think we get into a good groove and then we kind of get stuck and we repeat the same things. I think, Christina, you've mastered this style of layout already. I'm going to encourage you to just keep going. All right.
Chris, may I add to what you just said?
Yeah,
Everyone, these are, I'm sorry to say this to you, but these are not masterpieces. Okay, don't treat them like they are. You got to treat them like exercises. They're exercises to help you with your future work. So if you did this, Christina, I hope, which I know you already have this saved, make another copy and just go in there and attack it with lines and see what happens.
I just want to bring something, like for some reason, it's not rendering the same way that she designed it. So
yeah, I have problems with some of your layouts, you guys. I really do. As soon as I open your files, there's this missing place files. All kinds of things are happening here. So if you embed an Illustrator file inside your file, you got to make sure that it's packaged and saved in a way that those things transfer over. As soon as I open up, everything's busted, and I'm sure there's something else that's going on here.
I can share a screen real quick. I have it up.
Okay.
If you got time.
Not really, but go ahead.
Okay.
Share.
So here we go. So she's modified it, and she's got some paper background cutouts that you can see.
Ah,
Can you zoom in?
cool.
Let's see here. So there's a little overlay, and it looks like there's a little background.
Mm.
It brings a 3D dimension to it, which is pretty cool.
Yes, it does.
Okay. It's not
Good
sharing?
job.
Okay. So Christina and everybody else that wants to submit something with images embedded, save the file in that way so I can see it. And it's probably one of the reasons why my machine is choking right now, because everybody's got some crazy stuff going on. So another way to do that is export it as a PDF or a JPEG so I can see it, and then I won't be able to edit it, but at least we can see your intent. That drastically changes the design. Some really cool stuff that you're doing there. So kudos to you. All right. I'm rushing here because this is it. We have 2 left and then we're going to bounce. Okay, everybody. So June. Okay, so something I can tell has already shifted in my artboard. Somehow I accidentally moved something here, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. Okay, so she split the layout 2/3, 1/3. I get that. The Journal for Graphic Design. June is another person I think who's really good at making structured functional typography. I think this week she hasn't pushed the limits far enough to kind of figure out how to use lines. I think the ones that are inserted in here are mostly decorative to fill up the negative space. I don't love it, and it's because it's all very similar. The journal, I guess I understand why you chose that way. It's the same stroke as the journal for graphic design, but it's really just breaking up the space, and even this lockup is just not handsome. It's not good looking for me. Maybe
Yes, Chris, go ahead.
maybe Milka will feel different. I don't know.
I agree with you, Chris. It's a flat piece. It's flat.
Yeah. Okay.
Next.
Why can't I select this thing?
The appointment myself too.
Sorry, give me 1 second here.
I feel like June was a little bit hesitant what to do with lines. June, now that you've seen this week's exercises, I'm curious to know what else would you do? How else would you improve this? And I have good faith in you that you're gonna really make this rock even more.
Yeah. So hey, June. Never mind. The journal for graphic design, like when I delete the elements, these lines, it's problematic already in here, right? It really is. So when you have that problem and you just add more, it's like what we like just pouring, it's putting lipstick on a pig. What can I say? So I think the problem here is just in the base type. If you fix this part, and then you start to think about how can I use the lines to connect ideas, to divide, to draw emphasis, then it'll work. So this, I already know the problem is in this right here. Okay. So fix that and everything, the layout starts to come together.
Can I make it? Sorry, you guys. If I were to cheat here, I would go ahead and put a black box over the dot of the I, because you can still read the word design.
Oh, okay. You would just delete that.
Yeah.
That right here.
To make it more readable.
Yeah. Okay. Tony Gibbs. Really interesting thing here. Tony has repeated the type a gazillion times because I see features and it just keeps going on and on and on.
But where are the lines?
No lines. No lines.
So why are we talking about it?
We can talk about it. We talked about other things without lines. Okay. So Tony, I think you've done something interesting here. You've created a big, gigantic shape through repetition. Let me do this. All right. And you created a vertical shape here. And you created another one here. So overall, good shapes, good rhythm, good flow. And even if I black it out, it actually looks better. So use the parameters of this week to your advantage. What do I mean by that? If you just took this type, it didn't need to repeat. You can just put it in a black box and you have the same exact impact, the same effect. All right. So remember how I was saying to you guys before that some of you guys are really good at using type as shapes, and some of you guys are really good at using shapes. But this is where you push and pull. You have an additional element. I want you to master how to use this and to break it up. I think honestly, some of this type could be a lot smaller because 11 points is a weird point there. I'll make it 8 points. Maybe decrease the lighting here. Next week, I can only imagine what you guys are going to do and how my computer is going to struggle to keep up with you. Because this week it's already choking. Next week is like doomsday. Okay. So
can't wait for next week.
Shapes and lines. Okay. Really explore that. I think those are all the layouts that we pulled. Now I have something else. There's a whiteboard here for a reason, because I want to talk about what we can do. Now, you remember last week when I screen captured somebody's typography? I don't know who it is. I started playing around with that and I started introducing textures and shapes and things like that. So next week, we're going to go into the land of experimentation. And I want you to try to break it. I want you to make it and then bring it back from Uglyville and bring it back into making it something that's cool, that's structured, that's handsome looking. And I want you to be able to do that. I'm going to grab this and bring it to the front.
And folks, if I may add to what just Chris says, when you're doing experimental, it doesn't mean that it's going to be a hodgepodge. No, the rules of unity, harmony, balance, hierarchy, scale, proportion, emphasis, focal point, contrast, they still apply. So be aware of that. But go for it, go design, let the piece talk to you, and then you can go in there and massage it to bring emphasis, to bring focal point, to push and pull it by adding more contrast.
So I'm going to show you a couple of little things I'm going to try here. So I'm just cutting up the type. Of course, we're missing some of the type, and you can argue we need it back in, and eventually I'll work it back in, but I wanted to show you some things, okay? So some people don't know this, but if you draw a shape like this, right? Shoot, I'll grab the shape, move it to the side here, and I'll just color it. There's black and white. That's what we're allowed to work with, black and white. But I don't know if you ever go down to the window, swatch libraries, and you go all the way down to patterns. There's a bunch of things that are already built into Illustrator, decorative, nature, whatever. So there's basic graphic dots, lines, and textures. I've already set up my machine to do this. So if I go over here and I click on this folder here, so I can fill this with dots. I can fill it with all kinds of things, really cool things. And I can play these halftone dots and different sizes and shapes and things like that. And then this gives me even more option and varieties to work with. So now your head's going to explode. Okay. So that's just one of those things. And you can go over here and you click on this one. This will give you some lines, horizontal lines, vertical lines.
I love it.
Right. So you guys can get in it. And there's another one here. These are the textures. These are sometimes not so good, but they're there for you to try and play. Right.
So Chris, we're going to keep this black and white.
Only black and white.
Okay.
It's never changed, experimental. I want to show you a couple other tricks as people are heading off into the sunset and trying to figure this out. See this little registration mark here? I drew this, right? That's very easy to draw, but I wanted to repeat it all over the place. And this is where I'm talking about file hygiene here. If I want to repeat this across, the easiest way to do it is this, and just duplicate it, Command D, right? And then what I would do is then I would group this, and then I'd duplicate it this way, and I put it in here. And I can manipulate it, but then I have a lot of elements on the screen. Let me show you a different way to do this. If you select this, you go to object, I think, and somewhere in here is pattern. And I'm going to make a pattern, right? Making patterns has never been easier to do in Illustrator than it has been in the latest couple upgrades. So I'm going to go make. And so it's going to ask me this. I'm just like, don't show me this. I don't want to see this. Just hit OK. So I can see this here. I can zoom in. So it's just focus on the pattern. And you can see right now, this is the default. It sets it to a grid, but you can do brick by brick. You can offset it. There's a lot of different things you can do. So a lot of fun ways to handle this. You see this right here? It's putting it inside of a hexagon there. And then if I increase the spacing of the width, so if I go to 150, it'll start to space it out. And you're like, oh, something's happening here. I can change the number of copies to 3x3, 5x5, whatever it is, just so I can see how this looks. Okay. And I want to leave the dim. I don't want to dim the copies. That's fine. So once I hit OK, we're done. Okay. And I'm done. So if you go here, you hit save a copy, done or cancel right up here in the top left. Right. I'm going to cancel because I've already done it. So all you need to do is use it now. So I'm going to draw a box just like I was doing before. Why is it? Something happened.
Yeah, it did it to me too.
Okay, so I'm going to draw a box now. And I'm going to select the pattern I've already made. And it's right. Is it this one? No. There it is. It's right there. Boom. And I don't want to stroke around my box here. So I want to take the stroke off. And then now you can get into it. This is all 2D type, all built into Adobe Illustrator, things that you can play around with, and whatever program you're using, have fun. And if I scale this down, it will also scale the pattern down. So I can get a smaller pattern, I think. Yeah. And the way that you make sure that that's working the way that you want it to is you go to Command K and you scale strokes and patterns and things like that. Somewhere in there, there's a preference for you to do that. I want to show you a couple like last little things here. I'm going to import some files in here. I want to show you what else you can do. Don't forget, you have a printer, you probably have a scanner, you can drop in design. So I want to open up your mind. Okay,
Yay.
so that coming down to the end here, you can print something out, you can scrunch it, you could
Cut it up.
you can cut it up, and then you can scan it back in, and you can do something really cool with it. And this is the preferred path to take if you want to distort your type. Don't try to do this all inside Photoshop. I know you can. Many of you guys know how to do all these tricks, so you can wave it. So I saw many years ago, 20 plus years ago, when I was in Arsenal in the computer lab, I saw another designer. He would do all kinds of weird tricks on top of the scanner. He would hold it in place and make it warp. while the scanner head was scanning it. So it created these weird undulating type that was super fun and easy to do. He would space it off the glass with pennies. He would stack some pennies and space some of it off the glass. So as the scanner came by, it made it out of focus and added texture to things. So I want you to try and do stuff, okay? Now, if you're gonna do some crazy files, make sure you're practicing good file hygiene, because if I can't open it, if I can't edit it, I'm moving on. It's no reflection on the quality of your design. It's a reflection on the quality of your file, because I don't want my computer to break, okay? So if you got some crazy stuff, go ahead and export it as a PDF, outline all your type. And the last thing you do is if you have a bunch of embedded images, maybe just export it as a clean JPEG and I'll import it and we can talk about it. I won't be able to edit it, but that's okay. It's preferable than not showing it at all. Okay, I think that's it for me. I'm going to stop this thing. Guys, thanks for hanging in there with us. For all of you guys that have made it all the way to the end, congratulations. Now go ahead and reward yourself by hitting subscribe and the bell notification right now, all 400 of you guys, okay? I appreciate you guys. And Milka, as always, thanks so much for being my co-pilot. Currently, there is no plan for an 8th week. 7 weeks, we're done. I'm exhausted. I have to make some money. I have to work on projects and write things. You know, I got work to do, you guys. You see how much time it takes from both of us. And don't forget, I'll include all of Milka's information in the links below, guys.
Thank you.
Below. And let me know how you feel about my new color and lighting setup here. This is my webcam. It's a fancy
Wow.
one, but this is my
You always look good, no matter what.
Thank you. Okay. I think that's it. On behalf of the entire team, Jonah, Mark, myself, and Milka, guys, have a great week. And we'll see you next time. And next time, anything goes. Experiment away. Do as many as your heart desires and then submit them. Okay?
Have a blast. Have a blast. Take care. Bye, everyone.
Everybody. Goodbye.